All right. Hello, everyone. Um, well, I'll give you the opening spiel. I think I'm just like my live stream on my original channel with Toya the Tutor on Thursday. For the holiday season, I think I'm going to take it back to the old school and just roll with the avatar. And especially for this Hangout format. Super Triz, what's going on? Hey, so welcome back to my channel. My name is, you guys know who I am, Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. First of all, please like this stream, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. Let's see here. What else? If anyone wants to donate to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal will be below in the description box. I just came from somewhere and I didn't do all of my usual prep. So that information might not be there right now. Let me take a look. I don't think, nope, it's not there. So in the playback, I'll put that information in there, but during this stream, I'll put that information in the chat in case anyone wants to donate to my Cash App or PayPal, because this channel, it's over 1,000 subs, but YouTube grants you the monetization based upon your sub count and also the watch hours. So I'm trying to get the watch hours up for this channel. Well, this is an open science hangout with BGS. The master teacher is not here yet, and I think he's still coming. If he's still coming, he'll pop into the backstage there, and I'll bring him up. But I just wanted to have an open science hangout with him. I have 2 questions for him, and I was gonna open it up after that in case other folks wanted to come up, and in case Nicole came through, or Keep It Techie, or Professor Black Ops, or Nameless. But the master teacher is the honored guest for today. He's a busy man, highly in demand. So I'm gonna, well, let me go share this over on my original channel, so people know that I'm live over here. Give me a second. Thank you to Super Trez for coming through. Sheed, we here. Thank you for the support as always. D Scott, thank you for coming through. I'm going to make an announcement over on the original Big Discussion 76 channel. Let's see. In the meantime, you guys can ask some questions there in the chat. I left something pandemic related in there about 2 days ago. And I just, my background is in the biological sciences, but I also like to weigh in on technology, the aerospace, the technology stuff, when I think there's something interesting to report. And I just made a post about supersonic flight this morning. So if you guys want to ask some questions there in the chat, or just kind of get the conversation going, I'm gonna share this, and then I'm gonna come back, and perhaps during that time BGS will have come. I should probably also check my email to see if he sent me a message about not making it or being late. So, but first, let me share this over on the original Big Discussion 76 channel. Hold on a second. Thank you for coming through, Giyagami. Let's see. Let's see. For those interested, because not everyone is interested, The weather where you guys are, I'm in upstate New York right now, and it's cool and it's snowing, but a it's not the snow that's sticking. Let's see. If you're not doing anything, please join us. Well, I'll just say please join us. All right. So I just shared that over on my original channel. So let me go back to, I'll give this a like over here. And now I want to go back to Big Discussion 76, Science and Technology. And so I could look at all the real-time data coming in over there. All right, so there we go. All right, let me take a quick look at my Gmail. I know the master teacher is in high demand. And a lot of folks probably vie for his participation. I don't see an email here, so I'll just talk for a little bit and until he shows up, and I will see what happens. Let's see. So Giyagami's here. Giyagami, thank you for coming through to the stream we did on Thursday over on my original channel with Toya. Thank you for coming through there. Mike Rizzi says, was about to get a mini PCR soon. Any recommendations for cheaper at-home PCR machine? Okay, so Mike, when you say PCR for someone with my background, that means polymerase chain reaction. That means you're doing experiments with DNA. Is that what you mean? Are you looking for DNA upregulation and gene upregulation? Let me know. Dorothy Scott says VOI FYI. I'm not sure what that means. Papo Naya Shelley says the commonality between those who refuse the Biden juice and those who take all of Biden's juice is that both will never be fully vaccinated. Think on that. Okay, I like that. Biden's juice. That's a good euphemism for the V word. And I'm going to be careful about using the V word here because we know at one point, at least, YouTube was highly policing the use of that word. So Biden's juice. Okay. Yeah. So I think one misconception people have had is that the Biden's juice is a cure-all and it won't stop your body from getting infected with the bug, but that's not how a medication like Biden's juice works. You'll still get it. Your body will just have a greater ability to fight it off. Let me acknowledge some folks here in the chat. But Biden's juice, I like that. I'm going to keep using that. Shout out to the chat. Good day to the host in the chat. Blind guy, his wife, their life. Alicia, good to see you. Thank you for coming through. Mike Rizzi, yes. Oh, geez. So Mike, in terms of which PCR machine to use, I've been out of the lab for almost 13 years. It's 13 years since I've been a regulatory scientist in the federal government. And when you're a regulatory scientist in the federal government, you're in an office setting, reading reports, making regulatory decisions, going to meetings, etc. So I'm not sure if Nicole comes through. That would be a good question for her. What's a good PCR machine to use? Because Nicole, the master teacher is here. Because Nicole, in her her gene editing and her cancer research, that's all molecular biology, or there's a heavy molecular biology component. So if Nicole comes through, we'll flag that one and we'll ask her. So everyone, the master teacher is here, so I'm going to bring him up. So I was going to tell a little joke. I said this channel's at 1,000 subs. Thank you to Ron Wills for helping to push this over 1,000 subs. But YouTube also, you also need the 4,000 watch hours to get to the monetization. And so when you want a crowd and you need to call the cavalry, who are you going to call? You're going to call the master teacher. So, master teacher, welcome.
Hey Doc, what's going on?
Nothing much. Yourself?
So, so what was the joke?
Well, the Ghostbusters.
Oh, the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the song is "Who You Gonna Call." I saw the movie, by the way, last week. But the question is, when you need to get your watch hours up, when you need to
Okay.
increase the engagement, who you gonna call? The master teacher. So, well, master teacher, as always, I appreciate you coming through. Whenever you come through, it's a really big deal. Certainly, there are multiple people vying for your expertise and participation.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's a lot going on now. But I thought it'd be cool to have you over to talk some science.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So I only really have two questions. I mean, and then afterwards, I know that there's literature that you share with some of the eggheads, your eggheads, as you call
Mhm.
us, and it's hard for me to keep up with everything. So I can ask you some questions about some of those things afterwards, and then I'll open it up,
Okay.
and we could just let it go. But yeah, guys. So when I open it up, we'll just try to keep it on science. This is one of the channels in the sphere of its kind. So we'll just try to keep it on science for today. And if it veers off in some other places, that's fine. But that's the theme. So my first question, master teacher, is
Mm.
you've mentioned that your background is in chemistry,
Yeah.
and as a biological scientist, those are mandatory courses for us.
Mhm. Mhm.
Can you talk about your chemistry training a little bit? What got you into that? And
Actually, I started when I was as a freshman in high school,
yeah,
and then I got halfway through it in college. So it's about 6 years worth. I actually really started pretty young.
okay,
So started off with chem tech, and as a freshman, and I think in high school I finished off with AP chemistry.
okay. And I
And
know that you're in terms of region, you're from Southern California.
right,
Did you go
yeah,
to a
Los Angeles.
special technical high school?
No, no. Then they didn't have any. They didn't have any technical high schools when I was going to school, so they hadn't started the magnet program yet.
Okay,
So it was all general.
okay. Now, did you have an aptitude for that early on in your life?
Yeah. Well,
Or
I
were you
seem to
good
have
at?
gravitated to it. So math and science and stuff like that. So and going to being bused to an all white school, I was one of the few black kids actually in class. So because when it gets to science classes, they're rather small. Like you go to an English class, you got 40 people. You go to your chemistry class, you got 10 or 15 max.
Okay. Was there any one part of it that you enjoyed the most? Was it the periodic table, or the mole, stoichiometry, gas laws? What? Anyone?
Well, the thing is that what always fascinated me about chemistry is how is it related to math, and uh, and how and the biggest thing that's always fascinating is that how you get an empirical equation that gives
Hmm.
you basically the count of the what atoms go into what and the number of them, and then you realize there's structures to them. Like even structures to like electrons. Like that was the biggest fascination for me when I was, I think it was in high school, when we actually learned that electrons have shells and have spins,
Mm-hmm.
and how just how an electron could move one plus or minus can actually change uh, the whole nature of that whole atom just by removing one little piece. Actually change the whole structure and how it bonds to other chemicals and stuff like that. So that was really what was fascinating, how the chemicals actually combine and what they're made of. And atoms have always fascinated me,
Okay.
even when it comes down to physics and what they're really made of. Because back then we thought that atoms were atoms and that was it. And the more as in the 40 years since I've been out of high school, you find out, okay, well, that's kind of true, but it's not true.
Okay. Um, yeah, as you were just saying that, I was thinking about the Planck model and the Bohr
Yeah,
model.
yeah, and the Bohr model. Yeah.
Planck model and the Bohr model. Protons, neutrons, electrons,
Mm-hmm.
the orbitals, and vice versa. Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you took it out to a certain point in college.
Yeah.
Did you get interested in something else, or
It's called money.
okay,
Had to go to work, so
okay, gotcha.
and with those the top three, how the top three the top three uh, in college is math, physics, and chemistry. And chemistry is very time consuming.
Hmm.
So you have to you really have to be in those labs like 9-10 hours a week, and that
Yeah,
didn't actually fit into a work schedule.
yes, and that's beyond understanding the principles, understanding the
Yeah.
periodic table, and just getting a handle on the principles and the calculations.
Hmm. Yeah, and then there's things you have to memorize because just because you get an empirical equation, that doesn't mean that's how that atom or that molecule is actually going to fit together, and how it's going to react to something else. And that was always it's still the most fascinating thing about chemistry. Okay, when you bring two compounds together, how they react, depending on the heat, temperature, what they're made of. Um, what solution that they're in. So that's always fascinating, which really is really hard to keep up with. So I'm sure that's um, even harder when it has to react to something as complex as the human body.
Hmm.
How many chemical reactions go on just to digest food? It's always fascinating.
Yes, I'm gonna share something with everyone, and it's kind of related to part of my discussion with Toya
Hmm.
on Thursday. I actually, for a little while, I needed to figure out how to make some extra money
Hmm.
beyond my federal salary, and I realized that I could tutor. So the question was, how can I use what I already know to make some extra money? So I fell into
Hmm.
tutoring, and for a number of years in the DMV, I worked for a tutoring service as a independent contractor, going to homes and working with kids who were taking AP and IB chemistry. And
Hmm.
I think I was a pretty good coach slash tutor. Most of them ended up in a good place. Um, but going back to what you said about it being time consuming, there was I didn't get it. I didn't really understand it in high school, and I went to a technical high school, and then
Hmm.
in terms of general chemistry in college, I went to a
Hmm.
HBCU, Johnson C. Smith University. I struggled with it early on, especially when the calculations started. And
Hmm.
our professor, I'm going to wrap this up. What our professor did is he realized that we were all struggling, and he kind of set the playing field so that we would succeed. So what he did was he graded the exams. How did he do this? He graded the exams so that we scored well based upon the number that we got right, as opposed to the number that we got wrong, the number
Okay.
and some of the students still didn't get it, but at some point a light clicked on for me, and I
Hmm.
said, "Oh, okay, this is how you convert a gram to a mole and a mole
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
something else. This is how you calculate a concentration. This is how you do
Hmm.
that." But it took
Yeah.
hours and hours and hours, usually on a Sunday, of me sitting in my dorm room just going over problems.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't
But
realize
that's
how much math actually goes into this. So
yes, yeah, and that was just general chemistry. So it
it's
was
general
algebra.
chemistry. It's
But
algebra.
but you can go into P-chem and analytical chemistry, and of
Hmm.
course the math gets more complicated there. But just I just wanted to share that everyone just piggybacking off of what the master teacher said about just learning to do the calculations can be time
Hmm.
intensive, and I
Time
and I think
intensive.
and I think just like physics, chemistry is considered a gatekeeper course.
It
I
is.
believe so.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. For your biology, a little bit, but anything with STEM, okay, you're gonna have to
Yep.
take some kind of chemistry. If it's physical, I don't know about I don't know about computer science, but uh, engineering, mathematics, physics, biology, medicine, anything like that's got to have chemistry in it.
Okay. Yeah,
And
and so I'm sure you've met quite a few students in your journey who said, "Oh, I want to
mm-hmm.
go to medical school. I want to be a plastic surgeon.
Oh
I
yeah.
want to be," and what
Mm-hmm.
knocks them out right early is the chemistry and the physics, and then
And then the
I think
math. Yeah.
organic chemistry knocks. I don't know
Oh yeah.
how it
Yeah.
does, but organic chemistry knocks a lot of students out of those tracks early.
Lots of memorization.
Mhm.
It's organic is math, but the thing is, it's lots of memorization. How these compounds actually fit together.
Mhm. Okay. I'm going to read this comment from Engineering Cannabis because this is I enjoyed the mole uh, solutions and the gas laws. I think those are my favorite
Hmm.
sub chapters in general chemistry. So okay, so let's move on a little bit. So that was your chemistry training.
Hmm.
One of the more intriguing, well, of course, most pretty much all of what you say is intriguing when I listen to you. Um, you mentioned in a stream that math is a philosophy.
Yeah, it is.
Can you talk about that? Because I that was the first time I ever heard that, and I never thought of math as a philosophy. I always thought of it as calculations and an empirical way of determining things.
The closer you get to the if you ever seen the close the higher you go up is it becomes more about philosophy, how you work out an equation. Now you have to have uh, uh, an empirical answer at the end, but how you actually uh, take a phenomenon like something in the real world, because it has to be based in the real world. How do you take a phenomenon in the real world and break it down into mathematical components? And first you have to have a philosophy. You got to have a point A and a point B, or a point A or a point Z, wherever however you want to take it, and that's philosophy. Okay, calculus. Okay, is philosophy. Okay, how do you observe a phenomenon um, in the sky and figure out how to calculate a curve? Because if you've taken calculus, that's it's so non-physical. When you first learn it
Mhm.
about how you slice up a curve and figure out what the area is under it, and that's you figure out direction and all that kind of stuff, right? Direction, intensity, and all that kind of stuff. Okay,
Mhm.
uh, just a word problem, right? When you what happens when a pitcher throws the ball and it hits a bat, and what happens to the ball after it starts, after it's no longer in contact, it becomes a missile. Okay, that's a philosophy.
Mhm.
That's a language. That's a philosophy. Basically, all math is doing is basically figuring out a language to go along with that philosophy.
Okay. Interesting. It now is there? I'm sure there are a series of books, or there's a book that talks about that. Is there one that comes to mind?
Um,
Because they never. I'm a Gen Xer, born in the mid '70s. They never talked about it like that going forward from the mid '70s on.
there's a bunch of them. The Trivium talks about it in that sense. Got a bunch of books around. Sacred. The biggest one that people always read first is Sacred Geometry. Okay,
Hmm.
sacred because geometry is the basis of all math. There's a very good book called philosophy book called uh, Math in the Embodied Mind, Philosophy of Math in the Embodied Mind, where they compare how a crow counts, because a crow can count, and and it can only count to four. A person on its own can only keep track of four or five numbers. Okay,
Okay.
and after that, you have to figure out an algorithm to keep it up. Like all our math, if our addition, subtraction, multiplication, because I had to go through this with my grandson.
Hmm.
How do you start out with counting with your fingers and and move to an algorithm because all addition is just an algorithm. How do you replace counting with your fingers to an algorithm which is addition to, and same thing with subtraction and then multiplication. Okay, it's a basically it's an algorithm based on a philosophy that that like a tool actually get you into higher and higher math. And after that, basically, they're all just algorithms or just techniques or actually figuring stuff out. Like even word problems. If you look at an algebraic problem, it's philosophy. What is x? What is y? Why does uh, what happens when y doesn't equal x? Because it's the first thing you learn in basic algebra is inequalities, right?
Hmm.
How come in when something doesn't equal something else, and the first thing you learn in calculus, right, is is when something approaches. Okay, when it never get in calculus, nothing ever gets to the end. Okay, you can start at zero and you keep slicing up that increment between 0 and 1 until you get as close to it as you can, which is an approximation.
Hmm.
Now we live in solid numbers. 1 plus 1 is 2. Blah blah blah. But the thing is, what about all the little increments in between? Okay, that's what calculus actually uh, is concerned with, the approximations between one number and another, or you know, one system and another. Okay, uh, when you get into linear algebra, it's the same thing. Okay, it's talking about approximations. It's about talking about algorithms. How do you figure something out? Like um, the databases that we run on are actually, is linear algebra. X1, X2, X3, X4. Basically, you take an algebra and you actually combining different kind of slices of other systems together. In other words, other triangles or uh, other lines and other what they call XY lines, and you actually slicing them together and you figuring out how do you compare two different systems. So like you take like three or four different equations, and then you trying to boil them down into one.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Well,
So it's actually
we'll
really go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, no, no. That's
But that's
okay.
but all that is philosophy, because when when they're actually introducing something in the beginning, they
Yeah.
have to go through a theory, right? They have to prove a proof of theory, right? That's philosophy.
Okay.
How do you prove that this technique works? And you have to go through a series of thought processes to actually figure out, okay, this instrument or this uh, definition or this function is is actually proven according to all this philosophy, all this theory.
Okay.
That's why.
You,
But
you,
anyway,
like in my mind, the disconnect is when I think philosophy, I always think you think Plato and Aristotle
hmm
and the
yeah. Yeah, what
the origin of the cosmos, and you
the,
know,
the Cartesian theory, right? You heard of
yeah.
that? Descartes was a philosopher. Okay, Leibniz was a philosopher. You know, um, Newton was a philosopher.
Oh wow. Okay.
Da Vinci, Da Vinci was, he painted, but he was a philosopher. Okay, all these people were philosophers. They were philosophers. They were also priests.
Priests.
Yeah, Leibniz, yeah, Descartes. They were priests.
Okay. All right. Um, well, I'll move us on a little bit.
Okay.
We're still early. We're at 30 minutes. Everyone, as I said, in my community tab, of course, we know that there's a lot of um, variant news. There's sometimes I see technology things that I think are interesting,
Hmm.
such as that post about supersonic flight that's in my community tab right now.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Did you see the 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 note that said that humans might have discovered a warp bubble, just like in Star Trek?
I have not seen that, but please talk about it.
So I don't know how true it is, but say they may have discovered a warp bubble, just like in Star Trek. So, so maybe faster than light travel could be possible.
Now, would that be in outer space? That's got to be for outer space, going between systems and stars.
Well, yeah, systems and stars. If depending on how, and that's another philosophy. How do you view the universe? Is
Okay.
it space or is it all connected?
Okay.
Which is another philosophy. But we can go really deep into it. I don't think we have time. But
Okay.
yeah,
We can always revisit that, but
yeah.
the going back to supersonic flight,
Hmm.
60 Minutes, they did a story a couple of weeks ago, and how aerospace they want to revisit that. And the fascinating thing to me was that they stated that you can't do that over land because when you break the sound barrier, it creates that boom,
Hmm.
and it does things like damage structures,
Hmm.
and it disrupts life on the ground.
Yeah.
So they have to figure out a way to make aircraft that are that fast, that can fly from New York to LA, but that don't have that effect. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah. You try to make trying to make it frictionless.
Hmm. Okay, so I know this will probably make everyone perk up a little bit. Have you been keeping your eyes on the metaverse and this new thing that's here?
Hmm.
I was listening to a stream this morning, and the host was making the argument that's going to create a whole new economy, with people being plugged into a digital space pretty much all the time.
Yeah, it will. It will. I mean, whatever humans do, that's an economy. So wherever they spend their time and their efforts, that's an economy.
Hmm. Okay.
So yeah, they've been talking about since what is it, Tron? I think in the '80s they've been talking about the metaverse or the virtual world.
Okay. Is there anything else in particular right now that because as I mentioned, you share information with us,
Hmm.
and I know listening to Nameless talk, there's just so much information, and it's hard to keep track of everything.
I
Um,
I think I think what they're well, you got quantum computers, so I think the biggest thing is do you have enough horsepower to actually create a believable alternate reality?
okay.
It's number one, and I think the computers are just now starting to be powerful enough. And the next thing is how do you interface that with the human mind? That's the next step. I mean, um, they have, as you know, they got devices to where they attach neurons to to your brain or to your brain stem to actually feed impulses to certain parts of your brain. Sight, smell, all that kind of stuff. because really, your brain is your sensory organ that tells you what reality is. So what
Mm-hmm.
happens when you can plug in an alternate reality directly into those sensors that is believable as the real world?
So would this be different than those large headsets that I'm seeing people putting on?
Oh, much different, much different. The headsets depend on your vision and how believable, how it can actually trick your eyes. In other words, it's still a headset. It's still coming in through your regular eyeballs and neurons and stuff like that, and your brain has to make sense of it. So, can your brain, adapt to, say, a virtual reality, and how believable can it be? I got a whole bunch of people are actually working on VR. But the thing is, uh, uh, the, uh, the jacking directly into the brain is more like the Matrix, where
Okay.
you really where your body is someplace else, but all your sensory connections is connected into this system, to where sight, sound, touch, and everything else is relayed directly through a computer. So
Mm-hmm.
that's on a magnitude of a scale that we can't even imagine. But you ever notice what the Matrix is? It took a lot of horsepower to actually create the reality. And how do you coordinate people in that reality so that you're seeing the same thing at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
So even now, with AI, they to actually teach a artificial intelligence how to drive a car on the street takes a lot of sensory input. And people don't realize is that your body, is feeding you sensory input like trillions of times a second. That's a lot of input. So that's how your brain is trained to actually kind of relate and move around in this world. Computers can't quite do that yet. They don't have enough horsepower yet to do that. But it's coming.
Okay. Wow. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Well,
To,
Elon Musk and Google have all bought into companies developing those kind of neural connections.
well, master teacher, since we're here,
Mm-hmm.
you talk about your grandson often.
Mm-hmm.
Is he um is he highly computerized at this point? I mean, is he communicating? Um, uh, well, is he adapted to the technology? Because I've heard that as these younger generations come up, they're losing the ability to communicate and look
In
you in the
real time.
eye and
Yeah. Yeah.
conversate and
Because there are other interactions for the most part online, and um, you have to force kids out to socialize. You have to have to take the devices away. Um, like most guys in the most executives in the computer realm, they actually take the devices away because they know how addictive they can be, and a lot of people actually use these devices as a crutch rather than interacting with a real person. It's much easier to actually do it online. Now that's what I noticed when back in the 80s and 90s. It's much easier to be your real self when you're behind a keyboard than it is when somebody can actually punch you in the face. Okay.
okay, that would explain why people are so a little more liberal with what they say and who they
Yeah,
are digitally than in
yeah,
real life.
yeah, yeah. I found out people are way more themselves uh, digitally than they are in real life.
Okay. I'm going to read this comment from
Hmm.
Williah3R. He says, if there was more investment in guys like me who fought hard to stay in school, we could have been the scientists and engineers that our Black community needed. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I think that's probably,
Uh, it's that's true. But the thing is, you got to realize where we came from, because really they didn't start emphasizing uh, black kids or even black boys until the 1970s. So basically, you have a 200-year lag, and especially when it comes to black boys, they never black men were never at the top of the list to be educated, and try to how to socialize that out of a people after uh, 20 generations is kind of difficult.
Hmm. Has your grandson shown the aptitude for the STEMs thus far, or is it too early to tell?
He has an aptitude for it, but thing is, does he have the interest for it?
Uh huh.
He's much more interested in the arts. He loves music. He loves to dance. He likes to sing. Uh, he has the IQ for it. Um, but the thing is that unfortunately, IQ or horsepower is irrelevant if you don't put the work in.
Okay.
And so there's some things I teach him he gets right away, and some things he refuses to learn. Like math is one of those things where he drags his feet.
Okay. Okay. Now, let me ask you this. So, and this isn't just regarding him, but is that having raised a couple of children yourself, is that his nature, or is that our culture that drives more of an inclination towards the arts versus the STEMs?
I think it's culture, but also with him, I think it's his nature because he started singing in the church when he was 2.
Okay.
So he's always had that bent toward performing. So that's his bent. That's his personality. Um, uh, is he smart enough to actually get it? If he wants to get it, yeah. Because when I finally sit him down and force him to do it, it's not that hard. But the thing is that keeping him interested in it.
Hmm. Okay. What other, in terms of science and technology, are there any other things that you kind of have your eye on, or that you're interested in? I've heard you talk a lot about the certification in Africa. It sounds like you keep up with that pretty
Oh,
well.
yeah. Well, yeah, Africa has to build a infrastructure, and they need help um, building it. They need actual people that they can trust and actually help them build out the infrastructure. And China can only do so much. And I don't think Chinese people really survive very well in that environment. So they really need a lot of black people that have some kind of uh, some kind of talent and skill to actually go over there and help them build it. And they're an up and coming powerful region because the rest of the world is kind of declining a little bit, and Africa is the only one that's kind of surging. So if you really have a good idea, you really want to work hard, uh, and you really want opportunities, that's where they're going to be. And I'd say the next 50 years or so.
Okay. And when you say infrastructure here, you're talking about
Uh,
being able
oh,
to
oh,
harvest
oh,
clean water. Uh,
water, waste. Well, I mean, you work with this stuff, right? Um, uh, you know, uh, water coming in, water has to go out someplace, right? So
hmm.
food comes in one way, it's got to be pooped. Where does it go?
Hmm.
And if it lays around, it's going to cause a disease and stuff like that. And especially as the population grows, so a bigger population, it's going to need way more infrastructure. You're going to have people concentrated in cities, um, and you're going to have millions, some maybe billions of people on a landmass. Okay, um, the raw land cannot accept that many people. It cannot support that many people. You need artificial structures that should support these people,
Hmm.
and those structures are not there yet. So Africa cannot really grow to its fullest potential without these structures. Because most uh, uh, basic infrastructure, like in the United States, is like see in Los Angeles, we have waste pipes that are 100 years old. Um, I think it was a couple years ago that we had a main water pipe, on my street that was like 80 years old. So a lot of
Hmm.
this infrastructure has been in place a long time. A lot of a lot of places in the third world, especially, don't have that yet. It hasn't been built out yet. But as you build, and you can't progress until you build all this stuff out.
Okay. Interesting. All right. We're at 45 minutes right now. Um, let's see. What do you think? Where do you foresee in terms of the pandemic um, in the next couple of months? I mean, we're seeing news of the Omicron. Um,
Uh,
I'm seeing mixed things about it in terms of whether or
yeah, I
not
am too. I am too.
whether or not the Biden juice works. I just watched I posted a video yesterday about the its ability to replicate is much greater than the previous
hmm
variants, but it doesn't seem to be as lethal. Go ahead.
Well, that's what I'm hearing. The thing is, we don't know until it gets out in the wild,
Hmm.
until it really gets in, into the population and see how many people get sick, how many people die, how fast it spreads. We really don't have any idea until it actually hits the ground and starts to spread. But as far as lockdowns, people talking about lockdowns. I don't think lockdowns are actually expensive, and governments only have enough money to do that once, maybe twice, unless it really gets to the point where people are actually dropping dead. I don't think you can get a lockdown.
Okay. Here's an interesting question from Eric Ingram. He says, "Will computers ever outthink humans? I don't think this is possible. What say you, BGS,
Yes,
Dr. Dunbar?"
yes. We got to remember humans been around for like 2 or 3 million years. Computers have only been around for like maybe what 50. They're gonna catch you. They're gonna pass you
Wow.
because a human mind, a human body, human mind is nothing but a system, organic system. And there's a lot that we don't know about the human mind. The thing is, one thing that the computers have over a human brain is its ability to actually recall. Um, and if you can break down what human beings do into a system, into math, into a system, into an algorithm, yeah, they can do it. Um, it's already breaching the point where it can't outthink a human.
Okay, so let's go back to your recall. When you say recall, you mean it has a greater ability to remember
Yeah,
things?
yeah, instantly. Yeah, it never forgets anything.
Okay, interesting.
So so basically thinking and will a computer be able to outfeel a person? I don't know. I don't think so. Okay, got to remember 90 was it 96 93 to 96% of your brain is feeling. It's not logic. So 96% of your brain, 93% of your brain doesn't think. Okay, uh, thinking
Wow.
is a layer that a small layer on top of your brain process.
Okay. Okay.
That's like a whale, a blue whale that has a brain the size of a bus is not any smarter than a human being because your brain is actually there to actually run your body in the real world. All those trillions of sensory inputs, okay, that's what your brain has to drive, has to react to, and your conscious mind can't react to all that. So your thinking, what we call thinking, is a layer on top.
Okay. Now, everyone, keep in mind, I'm degreed in the biological sciences. I'm not degreed in neuroscience, but that's something I needed to be reminded of. But that's fascinating. So,
Yeah, yeah. Go look up George Lakoff, Lakoff. He's actually what they call the father of neuroscience out of Cal Berkeley, and
mhm,
read his philosophy books because even though he's a neuroscientist, a lot of that neuroscientist is actually steeped in philosophy.
okay.
If
Well,
you read his books on math, it'll change the way you think about math.
okay. George Lakoff.
George Lakoff, yeah.
Okay. Folks, if you're new coming in, I see the number bouncing up and down, which it does. Please hit the like if you want to make a donation to the channel. I don't have a super chat over here yet. My Cash App and PayPal are there. if you want to put something towards the BGS tax, you know,
Nobody refuses the BGS tax.
nobody
Well, yeah,
refuses the BGS tax.
but likes are free.
Likes are free. So that's interesting. So you say computers will eventually pass us. I see engineering cannabis is there in the chat. When we spoke,
Hmm.
one of the things that he expressed to me was with artificial intelligence, it matters what you teach it. So you have to teach it. It's like a
Hmm.
child.
Yeah, yeah.
But
For
at
now,
some point,
yeah.
but at some point, what is there a point where we're no longer going to have to teach these things? They'll teach themselves and they'll think for themselves.
Hmm. That some of that is already going on in a primary way, where
Mm-hmm.
they have started to teach themselves, and they call it automated learning,
Mm-hmm.
and some of that is already happening, but it's in its infancy, so it's not developed yet. But the thing is that even this kind of stuff is only computers teaching themselves is only maybe 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's really really early. And thing is, with billions of people working on the same thing at the same time, and you talking to Alexa, talking to Google, talking to Siri, okay, you're teaching it the whole time. Every time you talk, every time you search on something, you teach it. Every time you upload a database, upload a picture, upload a X-ray, you're actually teaching that AI system. And so basically, if you get a big enough database, enough input, basically it can actually start putting these things together, which is already happening.
Okay. I'm going to read this comment from Ray Alexander. He says, Wilaya 3R, although your high school experience was not encouraging, you may still become a scientist or engineer now. Have you considered a STEM career as an adult, maybe information technology? And I think he replied that he's already into his career.
Hmm.
But one thing a lot of people don't know is that inventors, those are STEM, those are scientists as well.
Hmm.
People who create inventions and new technologies. So you don't always have to be degreed to be a STEM person,
No.
so to speak.
Yeah, I think that they're starting to kind of move away from degrees, even though it's good to be around people and good to have that kind of that background. But most of the stuff that's in universities are already online. If you really want to learn it, you can. You don't have to go to the university to actually learn the principles. It's already there. If you know how to read and search, whether it's search online, search Google, search YouTube, you can find the stuff. It's already out there. So
Okay.
a lot of lectures that you want to that you would get on the university is already online somewhere. And if you're really adamant about it, basically, and you're really willing to put in the work, just like Dr. Dunbar tutored, right? You got Zoom, you got all kinds of ways to get a teacher for not much money.
Okay. And keep it techie. And I think Professor Black Ops, they were telling me that at least in the technologies, another um, aspect of that is the certifications.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
people can get into those fields and start working um,
yeah,
with certifications.
yeah. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs are actually self-taught. Wozniak and all them, they're actually self-taught. They didn't get degrees. So you don't have to be
Hmm.
degreed to actually be in a STEM, because a lot of your inventors of the stuff that we use now are actually self-taught.
Hmm. Well, the other Ray Alexander's here. I think the other concern is well, there is a concern that of steering people away from getting degrees for certifications because the people running the companies and creating the companies have degrees. So I know some people were concerned about that discussion because
Well, yeah, if you're new and if you haven't done any work that people can see, yeah, they're gonna rely on degrees. And there's some things that you can actually get um, certified in as far as degrees, because how do you know if people haven't passed certain math courses? How do you know how much math they actually have? They could be self-taught, but the thing is, um, how do you find out? How do you actually, or how are you sure that somebody can actually do what they say they can do? That's where the degrees actually come in. And for certain things, I do believe you probably need them. Like, there's no way that Dr. Dunbar could do what he does without, going through the academic system. Very difficult. It's hard to, especially when you do lab work, man. It's hard to replicate a lab, university lab.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Okay, if you're going into the medical sciences or the or what I call the wet sciences, okay, you got to have lab time, and there's no way to duplicate that without being in a lab.
Mm-hmm.
All the other stuff, physics, you can get away with it. Math, you can get away with it. Computer science, you can get away with it. There's certain things you can't get away with. Like, there's no way could it actually be a doctor, a PhD, not a PhD, but an MD without going to medical school, because you have to work with the bodies. You have to work um, with. You got to work in the labs. We have. There's things that you have to work with that you don't have the money to actually outfit yourself with. Now, if you got $1 million, you guys outfit yourself with a modern lab. Oh, well, you can learn it on your own. But the thing other than that, you probably can't. So there's some things you do have to go to school for.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I want to thank Frederick Holiday
Hmm.
for the $10 Cash App for the science and the BGS tax. Okay, appreciate that. Let's see. Well, we're at about an hour now. So I see some of the tech guys in there. I'm going to drop the link and
Okay.
I'm going to open it up, guys. If you guys want to talk tech a little
Yeah.
bit? You want to talk about? I don't think the. You know what? Okay, let me use the word immunizations. I'm going to use immunization instead of vaccine.
Okay.
I think. I think they've fallen back on that a little bit, um, in terms of banning people talking about that stuff. But if you guys
Okay.
want to talk about that a little bit, we can go there. If you want to talk aerospace a little bit, we can go there. Um, with I know not everyone here celebrates Christmas, but in my community tab this week, I'm gonna that there are three scientific explanations for what the Christmas star was.
Oh
Um,
yeah. There
some
is.
so I'm gonna post that there for everybody,
Yeah.
um,
There is.
because I did volunteer at the Arlington Planetarium for a number of years, so I learned some aerospace.
Yeah.
Uh, but the link is there in the chat in case anyone wants to come up and join us and
Yeah. But the
talk.
thing is, I want to give you and Nicole your flowers, because after following this for 2 years, everything that you guys said early on has
Yeah.
been spot on.
Okay.
Like when Nicole said that this was actually going to mutate pretty rapidly, she was
Hmm.
spot on. But nobody actually gives her kudos for saying that.
Hmm.
You guys are actually spot on from the very beginning.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Even when you said that we're using the wrong test in California when they first started.
Yeah. Yeah. The PCR probes weren't they were faulty.
They were faulty. Yeah, you said that.
And there's something and there's I did an interview with a woman here. You guys should listen to it. Her name is Nancy Ross. She's starting her own lab consulting group. There's an importance for the general public understanding the science. I mean, I know I get up here and I talk about things, and some of you guys don't know what I'm talking about. Just like when Keep It Techie and Professor Black Ops come on, they talk about
Hmm.
Linux
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
open
Open
source.
source. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about all the time, but there's something important about at least knowing the basics of it. So you know
Hmm.
when these stories start coming out, you know what they're talking about, and you know what's
Hmm.
being discussed.
Yeah.
So we've been joined by Bailey. Welcome, Bailey. Or
Well,
Valley.
yes. I
Bali.
have a. I'm not totally sold on the thing that AGI, artificial general intelligence, is
Hmm.
going to be really a realization in maybe 50 or 100 years, because I'm working
Oh,
ostensibly
oh,
in.
it's gonna be sooner than that. So
No, I don't think so, because
why? Why?
I work
Okay.
in this with professionals who've been working in the field
Hmm.
uh, for a long time. I'm doing work at one of the most prestigious institutions in the world, and
Hmm.
the professors, they say that that's probably not going to come anytime soon.
Okay, why did they say that? In as simple language as you can actually muster.
Well, we're just
Whatever you
not
can
there.
say. We're not there, but the thing is that if you listen to Kurzweil, right? Kurzweil's been saying this for quite a while, and they're actually the leaders in this technology. Them and Google. Google's poured a lot of money into this, right? And
Yes.
and Kurzweil, you're aware of the singularity, right?
Single.
The
No,
singularity.
no.
In other words, when all these enough people and enough science and enough people actually bang on the same problem at the same time, and piles on top of and one innovation piles on top of the other, you're actually going to get there faster. So in other words, there's no way to predict how long something's going to be because, like I said, the nobody ever thought we were actually going to even begin to actually create what they call a warp bubble, right, from Star Trek. Okay, that just popped up.
Well, I don't. I even heard that AGI won't even may never be a realization. To be, that's an article I read. Article I
Yeah,
saw.
yeah.
But
Until it does.
well, we don't know. No, from what I
Until
see, I
no,
studied this.
nobody believed in the artificial womb until it popped up.
Artificial what womb?
Artificial womb, yeah.
Yep.
Nobody believed in it until it popped up, and all of a sudden, boom, there it is. And it's a lot simpler than we thought.
I just don't. I really, you just can't predict the future. So.
Okay, okay. What thing is, how do you measure it? How do you measure? How do you measure artificial general intelligence? How do you measure it? What's the parameters in your mind? Whereas on this side it's not, on this side it is. How do you measure it?
And what's like
In other
measure
wo-
like
in other words, what are parameters to where you can say that artificial general intelligence has caught up with the human mind? What's your parameters?
well, I guess when the machine or the computer can pretty much write. If you're talking about write journalism,
It
uh,
does. It does do that.
it does do that. It does
Okay.
do that. It can write. It can pretty much just write its own uh,
Can they write its own
paper.
code?
Oh, we already know that. Of course, it can write. Yeah, I've done that. I've done the neural networks,
Mm-hmm.
the feed for neural networks. I've done all that.
Okay. What I'm
So
saying is, does it? In fact, they were just saying it has been for a few years, right? Where computers are actually writing articles that we see online.
Yeah.
So they've been doing that.
That's not
That's
new
been
tech.
that. It's not new. That's been out for like 6 7 years.
yeah.
It was like it's
Oh
in
yeah.
infancy like a few years ago, but it's doing it now. Okay. So what I'm asking you, if you don't believe in it, okay, and you don't believe it's going to show up, what are the
I don't think.
criteria? What are
Well,
the
okay.
criteria?
Well, I don't think that. Let me see. I don't think that uh, it's going to be just able to look at problems in society and then just when there's a problem that it sees, it's just going to be able to fix. I don't. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Okay,
That's all.
give me a problem. Okay, the thing is, you got to have some kind of baseline criteria when that's to say that it is or it isn't. You got to give me a yes or a no. Okay, what kind of problem does it need to solve to prove that it can think anywhere close to human? It's not. It's never going to be human. So trying to
Mm-hmm.
say that artificial intelligence or AGI is going to be human, it's not going to be human because it doesn't have a body. It doesn't have the same inputs. It doesn't learn the same way that a human does. So it's not going to be a human. So it's trying to say that it's going to be a human. It's not designed to be a human.
Of course, I never said it was trying to. It was trying to be a human.
So what I'm saying is that I've heard this about, I've been hearing this. I've been listening to Art Bell since the '89, right? They've been talking about this for the last 30 years. At what point do we say that this machine can think versus that it can't?
I think when it programs the code by itself, to be honest.
It does.
I
It can't. It's
They're
simple.
already doing that.
it already does.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I guess it almost has pretty much human, close to human level intelligence, right?
Like I actually said this example in, I think on one of my streams, right? Taking my father to the hospital, right? And like 20 years ago, you get a blood test, and the doc can probably tell you this. 20 years ago, you get a blood test. You got to go to a lab. A lab tech has to look at it, and it takes like a few days for the results to come back, right?
Hmm.
Okay, I'm in the hospital with the nurse. They're taking all these blood samples from my father, right? I said, how long is it going to take for the samples to come back? About an hour. So what? Okay, they're uploading this to an AI. AI is reading and giving results back. In fact,
Yeah.
my father used to get emails, right, from samples he took like 6 months ago. All of a sudden, he's got to come in from a test he took 6 months ago because the doctors have to do something, right? And it comes to find out the artificial intelligence that's spotted something that the doctors did, and that's been common. The AIs, as far as detecting, reading X-rays, reading blood samples, PCR tests. The PCR tests that we do now could not be done without AI, artificial intelligence. Human beings can't do it fast enough.
Hmm.
So in other words, I know they're not there yet. I would never say that they're there yet. But 50 years at this rate of improvement, you know, I think it'll be like I think it'll be more like 20. Some people say they're already there. They're just not announcing it. It
I don't think
depends on
so.
I don't say it
I don't
depends on
think.
who you talk to. I mean, we can think. What I'm saying is, I said some people say. Now, can we prove it? No. Is everything that Google or Tesla does is that out in the public domain? No, it's not. We have no idea what the Chinese are doing. Don't have a clue.
Of course, of course.
Hey,
I told.
Go ahead.
AB has joined us. We should AB give him the mic for a minute.
Yeah, I understand where the brother's coming from, but you gotta understand. I downloaded the new Visual Studio package and for coding, and it actually reads how you write your code and accurately predicts what your next step is going to be. So the intelligence is there. It's a lot further than people think it is. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah, that's like I'm always asked. At what at what level do they think the computers or the systems have to get before they can say it can actually think? And nobody can ever give me a clear answer. Can they pass the Turing test? Yeah, they can pass the Turing test.
I just want to read this comment from D.
Yeah.
D says, to work as a data scientist or a machine learning specialist, you need a master's or a PhD.
Mm,
Mm,
I don't know. I have no clue. Okay,
That
I have no
that
okay.
clue.
that is true.
Okay.
90% of data scientists have master's degrees and 46% are PhDs.
Okay.
Okay.
I said that I don't have a clue about. But yeah, but the thing is that these systems are coming, and there's a whole lot of money behind it, and basically we're feeding these machines information, these systems information, man, at a rate that's never been done before. Uh,
That's why they call it
Tech,
machine learning.
machine learning, yeah.
Machine learning.
Well, guys, I'm going to take us slightly social, political, but also
Go ahead.
staying in the technology. We know what happened with Google earlier this year and their financial pledge um, to get uh, more Black women in the tech fields.
Mm-hmm.
So, Master Teacher or AB, I think AB, you're a tech guy yourself. Are men more? Do men have a higher affinity for the tech fields? Is that a gender thing, or is that
It is.
do our brains work differently?
Yeah, our brains do work
Oh
differently.
boy, I
Yeah.
know I'm gonna come off as a sexist, but well, let me be fair. There are some exceptions, but Nicole might be an exception. Uh, a lot of black females are not ready for programming. They're just not ready. Because I'm just I'm just saying that the pattern of their behavior, they're not ready. You got to deal in reality because the compiler doesn't care about your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
That compiler does not care about your feelings. You make a mistake, it's gonna tell you. It might tell you before you run your program. It might tell you after you run your program. It might tell you after you run a program 5 or 6 times. But that compiler does not care about your feelings.
That.
No matter how much you want it to be right.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not all black. I'm not saying this is all black women, but some of them, they're not ready.
So, AB, what word are you saying? You're saying compound, or you're saying?
It's much harder to actually train a woman in STEM than it is a man. Can they get there if you put enough work into them? Yeah, they'll get
Yeah.
there. They're human beings. They'll get there. Um,
Now Nicole. Now I know Nicole's not a programmer, but she has the attitude. She could be a programmer if she wanted to be.
yeah, she's much more logical.
Yeah, because I listened to how she does her experiments and stuff. She could do it if she wanted to, but she's in the field she wants to be in.
Yeah, the thing is that they've done these experiments in the Nordic countries, right, where they've trained the boys and the girls exactly the same and let them pick. And what they found out is the boys and girls gravitate to the same fields that they've always gravitated to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a matter of can you train women to actually be in those fields? You can. The thing is, will they pick them? Number one,
Yep.
will they
This
pick them, and how much more work will it actually be to actually train a woman versus a man?
this master's program I'm in for computer science, uh, I'm pretty sure it's pretty much mostly it's actually I think it's half and half, but it
Mm-hmm.
used to be like 2 years ago was I think 2 3 the cohort before sometime
Mm-hmm.
before was like 90%
Mm-hmm.
men, 10% women or something like that.
Yeah, at this point they don't have a choice because that's where all the jobs are going. So if they want to make some money and they want to have a career, okay,
It's not
they're gonna
American
have to have some
girls.
STEM. So what?
Mm-hmm.
It's not American girls. It's like foreign women too.
Mm-hmm.
So
And don't get me wrong, I'm not discouraging black girls from if they want to get into coding, that's fine.
Yeah.
But just be prepared.
Yeah, they have to spend more
They,
money to actually get girls into coding. But the thing is, but I do believe that they should a black putting money into black girls is fine, but I think you should train black girls and black boys equally.
you know
I
why they
think you
don't want
get
to train black boys.
I
They,
know, but the thing
but
is, you
that's
get a
another
better
story. That's another story. Go ahead.
you get a better return. You would get a better return uh, um,
Mm-hmm.
by putting money into black boys rather than black girls. You get a better return. But it is what it is.
They still want that advantage, but that's another story.
Self-taught engineers and science will not have the validate. That's not true. That's not true. Either Bill Gates and Steve Jobs
Oh
are
yeah,
the
Bill
top of their
Gates and
field. And Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. Oh, shit.
Yeah,
Had
yeah,
a brain fart there for a minute.
yeah. I
They've
mean,
disproven that theory.
yeah.
They crushed
The
that theory.
vast majority of your the vast majority of people actually improved on as far as computers and computer technology today. The vast majority didn't have degrees. A
Mark
lot of this was actually
Zuckerberg. Say
self-taught.
what you want about him.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of this is self-taught.
And that's fascinating
Hmm.
that they were able to start companies and come up with these ideas and then employ
Hmm.
degreed people, but they're not degreed themselves.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for the basic science, just like anything else, the basic science has to be done, by the PhDs. But after that, they actually develop the stuff on the ground. A lot of that
Mm-hmm.
is people that are self-taught.
To be honest, for computer science, it was like the academia, the schools were just 10 times behind, pretty much.
Oh,
Well,
that
they
was an
still,
understatement. That's an understatement.
they still are,
Yeah.
to be honest. But I
Hmm.
mean, like, it just wasn't what it used to be. To be honest, like computer science then and computer science now in academia just wasn't the same. To be honest.
Yeah, it's a good place to start if you're not sure. But the thing is, they just have more monkeys pounding on the same problem. That's what open source means. Okay, instead of having a few hundred people working on something, a project, you got 10,000, 20,000 people pounding on it. Somebody's going to come up with the answer.
Yeah, true.
So, master teacher, so singularity.
Uh huh.
So you mentioned, the context I normally thought of a singularity of was
Mm-hmm.
a black hole, but
Yeah,
the context you used was a convergence of multiple people working on the same problem, and
and, mo-
then you
yeah,
get a
mo-
breakthrough.
and you get a breakthrough. Multiple people from multiple different angles and multiple disciplines all coming together. Well, singularity for Kurzweil is when engineering, uh, computer science, and biology all come together in one point, and then you get a acceleration. You get a exponential acceleration. That's what you're seeing right now. You're seeing an exponential acceleration. You have breakthroughs coming out left, right, and center.
Okay.
Like even for um, what is it? What do they use that to put those things together? What is it? Uh, Actually manipulate cells in DNA.
Is it gene editing?
Not the gene editing. What the breakthrough they had?
CRISPR.
Actually, CRISPR. CRISPR actually came from three different disciplines, from three different people in three different parts of the world. You know, bacteria and basically biologists in Latin America in a cave. Okay, found this bacteria. Okay, and and
Mm.
and and and, uh, and another scientist in America found a way to actually use it, and then an in um, engineer in I think it was in the UK actually found a way to actually program it, and that's where the
Oh,
CRISPR
really?
comes from. Yeah, that's the way of a singularity where three different disciplines from three different people in three different parts of the world actually came together to solve a problem.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, everyone, the StreamYard link is there if you want to come in and ask a question, or if you have an expertise, you want to come in and uh, volunteer up. I'm going to go back to we talked about Africa earlier, Master
mm,
Teacher. And you talked about
okay,
Africa
yeah,
building the infrastructure.
yeah,
I dropped a couple videos here on the malaria immunization.
mm-hmm,
So as I was creating that content, because the World Health Organization endorsed that I'll just say it, the vaccine for
mm-hmm,
malaria. It's a different disease than this.
yeah,
But I was thinking, okay, so that's going to be important for that region of the world.
mm-hmm.
So that's
Okay,
probably
what
going to have
what
something to do with the
the con
acceleration, the building up of Africa.
Yeah, they will, because groups of people that can't normally survive in that environment with medicine can. Okay, it's not just this region, but also Latin America. Lots of parts of Latin America are actually unlivable because of malaria and other kind of diseases,
Mm.
Okay. Okay.
especially for people outside their region. That's probably the reason why Chinese people come there for a couple of years and have to go home. Europeans used to have to do that when they come to the continent.
Oh, they have the same problems. Oh, wow. They have the
So
same
they might have
problems
the
as
same problem.
Europeans.
I'm suspecting they have the same problem as Europeans, because
So
they're
they
not
can only
coming.
go.
They're not coming there in
They're
mass.
not used to that heat.
Heat, temperature. I mean, heat, humidity, diseases, all
Bugs.
kinds of stuff. But yeah, all kinds of stuff where they're not used to being in that environment.
So they can only go and stay for a little while.
Yeah. I learned that from reading Daughters of the Trade, where European traders could come there, marry, but they could only stay there for a couple of years without going back to Europe. They couldn't survive. Otherwise, they'd be dead within 3. So, you see Chinese contractors come for a year or two and then they go home. So I'm suspecting that they can't live there. That would be my suspicion because they've been doing this for like the last 15 years, and even though the countries in Africa are open to Chinese immigration, you don't see a whole lot of them actually come there and stay.
Okay, interesting. I mean, well, we do know that certain populations are genetically predisposed to living in certain regions.
Right.
So Africans have the sickle cell gene is actually helpful for what's the word I'm looking for?
Malaria. Yeah.
For malaria, for living in those conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And so populations that don't have that gene, they're at a disadvantage when they go into those regions.
Yeah. Even down to the bugs in the water, whereas they can drink out of the tap and you can't, because you didn't grow up there. You're not adapted to to their water systems.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different things. So yeah, but the malaria vaccine, I'm sure, is probably tied to that. Just like the quinine. I think you did actually talked about a medication for malaria, if I'm not mistaken. That
Might have been months ago. I haven't done
Yeah.
it recently.
yeah.
Okay. Well, Master Teacher, let's go back to and I have a pile of things that I want to read up on with the
Okay.
womb technology.
Mhm.
Is that being developed to offset what's happening now? I mean, in terms of the birth rate being down and this gender standoff that I know we're having it in the Ados tribe, but apparently it's happening in some other groups too. Is that in some way an answer to that?
It's a little bit, but I think the countries or societies have been wanting to kind of uh, take control of child production because um, putting two people together, them getting married and a woman having kids, that's messy, right? Much more efficient than just to produce the kids that you need. And you can actually go back to the earlier 20th century, right, with A Brave New World. They were talking about that back in the 20s and 30s. So
Okay.
it's much more efficient to actually produce the children that you need than it is to actually have them born. And then and then also you can actually produce the kind of children that you need. Like I think it was a Russian chick from um, Russia Today. She was actually saying it's easier to increase the brain size because a female can only push out a certain head size for a baby. But the thing is, if an artificial womb, you can make the head size as big as you want. So basically, if you give um, say if you give a 10% a bigger head size, just 10%, right? You double, maybe triple the intelligence, the IQ, just by giving it that little bit more of a brain cells on top of on the same kind of body.
Mm.
Little stuff like that. Like instead of um, say if you artificially produce babies, you can actually put the neural implants in them in vitro, right? Rather
Mhm.
than trying to retrofit a human being. You can already design the baby for the implants connected to the internet, whatever you would need to put inside that child or that human. And as it grows, it's a part of them. It's not something you have to retrofit.
Oh
So
wow.
that's just one of the few things about artificial womb technology. It's not just the um, having enough children, but the thing is, the type of children are actually born. That's why I asked Nicole. I said, if you had a choice in you're having a child, and you could actually do the old way, which is human 1.0, or the new way, which is humans 2.0, which one would you choose? Guess what she said?
What?
2.0.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's got a child that's has more immunities, connected to the internet, twice to three times the intelligence. Okay, if you have a regular child compete against that kind of human being, who do you think is going to win 9 times out of 10?
The 2.0
The
child.
2.0. So would you, if you had a child, which one would you choose, knowing that your child's going to have to compete against these new kind of kids?
Yeah, if you put it that way, then I'd go for the 2.0.
Yeah,
So then we're witnessing an actual evolution. Then
I do think it's an evolution
Hmm.
in biology. That's what they're on the precipice for, and I think a lot of this stuff is doable, but I think socially it's going to take a minute for people to actually accept it.
so that's what.
Whereas AI is kind of like people don't understand it because it's hidden. I think AI is actually going to actually advance a lot faster than biotechnology in that sense. But we'll see. You can never tell.
Okay, looks like we have a debate in the chat between Ray Alexander and Rael and Willia 3R. Both Bill Gates and Steve Jobs are geniuses. That's why they were able to build the companies they developed. Most people are not on their level. College is a good uh, training for others.
I'm not saying that college is not a good training for people. I know
Right.
nobody ever said
Nobody's
that.
saying that. Nobody's
I'm,
saying that.
I'm, and I think the way you teach. Okay, you got to remember that even with college, okay, the way we teach people nowadays is about, I would say, 250 years old. It goes all the way back to the to Germany in the Prussian school system, right? A lot of the ways that we actually teach people nowadays is like 250 years old. When priests when priests and officers had to teach the kids and teach the college students, and you had to go in a seminary. So a lot of ways we actually teach people is actually ancient. Is there a better way to actually teach people nowadays? Or is college, which is, well, hell, if you think about the priesthood in college, it actually goes back something like 10,000 years, because where only priests and nobles could actually attend. Is there a better way to actually relaying information to people? Some things you do need college for. Some things you may not, and some people, a lot of people aren't self motivated, so they probably do need to sit in class
Do you
and have.
think that you
Go ahead.
do you think you need to go to school for engineering, like a hard engineering uh, uh, major?
Do you think you need to go to school? Some things has to be relayed from one human to another. Okay, and some fields are hands on. Okay, like I was saying,
Right.
chemistry you got to be in a lab. Engineering, depending on what kind of engineering you're talking about. It depends on your work field. Say you're a line worker, okay, and you laying electricity, okay, electrical lines, okay. Can you take engineering online and relate it to what you're doing out in the field? Or can you apprentice, say if you want to be an engineer, can you take the work online and actually apprentice someplace and actually learn it hands on?
Hmm.
Right.
Some things you do. The thing is, we don't know. Because we've never tried. Are we saying that college is college necessary for everybody? No, but look at how many people actually come out of college actually use their degree in what they're doing. How many people
Yeah, I
actually
know
go
a
into
lot
STEM
of
that are
people.
actually in college? Most people that go to college don't go into STEM. What is STEM? Like 5% of people?
Then 5%, really?
Somewhere, but STEM about 5%,
How about hard
5 to ten
STEM?
percent.
I'm not
Hard
talking
STEM,
like or biology. I'm talking like math, statistics, engineering.
yeah,
Uh,
about 5 to 10%. Yeah, the biggest field the biggest field in college, believe it or not, if you ever go to graduation, I had to go to one. when my daughter
Business.
graduated. Nope, psychology.
Psych-
Oh boy.
Psychology, sociology. Is
Oh,
actually
really?
the vast majority of people graduating are in
So we got a
psychology
bunch of shrinks
and
trying to run
sociology.
around.
Yeah, well, that's
I know,
because
I
it's a
know.
social science. But thing is, you go to graduation, see what most people graduate in.
Psychology. You're right. You're totally right.
Yeah,
No, so that begs the question: do our schools not prepare our students for the STEMs, or people just naturally go to psychology and poli sci and those things?
if you've been in school, man, basically people come in to do one thing and find out it's too hard, and they actually go into another.
Yeah. That the attrition rates for the STEM degrees
It's pretty
are
high.
just
Yeah,
high.
yeah. Even in the freshman level for STEM, I think the death rate is like 50%. If people change majors because they can't hack it, and a lot of that is because they haven't mastered their mathematics. 90% of it is mathematics.
What are you
Your
talking? What are you
mathematics,
talking? Like what?
hmm?
What degrees specifically? Like engineering and
Engineering, chemistry, physics. Uh, basically is heavily inundated with math. Okay, and basically
right.
those are the weed out courses.
Yeah, that was hard for me.
Hmm. Yeah, so
Hey,
you have to survive it. Calculus and physics weeds out more people than anything else.
Yep, pretty much.
yeah, you have to have the discipline.
I took all 5 levels. Like I took all calculuses and different and 2 differential equations classes.
Oh yeah, yeah. So would you come up? Were you computer science or were you mathematics when you were
I
as
was
a
a
BA?
math grad, and then I'm a computer science
That makes
grad.
sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
How do you apply your mathematics? The easiest way is actually go into um, computer
AI.
science. Yeah,
Computer
AI, computer science. Yeah, quantum computers because most of the quantum computer developers are actually PhDs in
math.
mathematics.
Yeah.
you know what?
I took a cryptography
Yeah,
class my undergrad, and that shit was the quantum computing. That was the hardest part.
yeah.
Well, before we've been joined by Semper Fidelis, before I give it over to him, I think that's a good question to ask for myself and for the audience. The quantum computers, because
Mm,
those are either here or they're definitely coming. What's
they're
the
here.
advantage of the quantum computers? What's the significance? Is it just the speed or the size of information that they can process? What's the
Basically, it would. What the thing is that it doesn't the regular computer's just on and off, right? Binary on and off, right? Or quantum computer, I think is at 3 or 4 states. So quantum computer is the closest thing to how a human brain thinks. In other words, instead of it being just a binary switch, it actually has more connections. So in other words, um, the complexity of equations and speed uh, is exponential instead of additive, like say with the binary. So in other words, if I can remember right, I think quantum computer instead of having on off, it has a NOR and it has another kind of in between state. So I think it's like 4 states that a quantum computer, the quantum level, actually operates on. So another instead of having just 2 switches, it has 4. So as you multiply that out, basically it grows leaps and bounds. So quantum computers can solve problems and break things that say break cryptography that a regular binary computer can't.
Okay.
You need to know linear algebra
Oh
extensively.
yeah, yeah. Linear algebra ain't no joke.
It's not
It's
not
not a joke.
it's not a joke at all.
Yeah, but if you're going to go to information systems, you need it.
That is that is one math that you probably need to know for about every like hands-on science discipline. Almost every hands-on science. That's like one. That's probably the most important subject that we have in this world is linear algebra. It just forms the basis for so many things.
Yeah, if you're going to connect systems, yeah, you need linear. How do you
Yep.
connect? How do you solve many complex equations at the same time? That's linear.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what a relational database actually does.
Right. Right.
All right, I'm going to give it over to Semper Fidelis.
Okay, hey, salute, gentlemen.
Hey.
Dr. Dunbar, BGS. I got a question from left field.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on survivalists?
Survivalist.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm not familiar.
you're
people
talking about
who
the. Uh,
people who see themselves living their lives by the rawest means possible. I mean, they talk about hunter gathering. They talk about agriculture.
I
They talk about water preservation, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, they get as close to the land as possible, but
Yeah.
um, even then, they bring in techniques and stuff like that for the modern world. So
Oh, of
it's not a
course.
hundred
Yeah.
percent. Yeah, it's not 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Hmm.
I know what you're talking about. About
Hmm. What do you
I
think
mean,
about
there's
that?
there's a big community that does that. You know,
Yeah.
not only individually but also in tandem,
Uh-huh.
where they actually they're getting away from the complexity of the modern world and getting back closer to nature. So yeah. Um,
Mm.
Most people are not built for it, okay? Because
Yeah, but this is what I was thinking too, you know.
most people, well, I would say like 99.99% of people are not built for that because most people, if they out there by themselves like that, go crazy.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
true.
most people are actually built to be clustered into larger groups.
But then that depends on the environment that you grow up in, you live in, right?
Even
You know,
even
you know, even to learn to
even
be built like that.
even in let's say even in nature, right? Even people that are what we call primitive, right? They
Hmm.
don't live. They live in groups. They don't live by
Yeah,
themselves.
that I agree with. That I
Yeah,
agree with.
yeah. Now they do live in small groups, yeah. But thing is that human beings are actually social animals.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
indeed. I
uh,
mean, I don't believe in hermits. I
no.
just don't. You know, I never have.
So as far as survivalists,
Hmm.
you have to be built to. You have to have that kind of um, personality to actually be out there by yourself. Most people can't.
Yeah.
So there's if you all over the world you can find some guy that spent his whole life in a cave, never took a bath, and he lives off the land his whole life.
Mm.
So it
Yeah.
does happen.
Mm. No, I just wondered what your thoughts were on that. I just wanted to bring it back to the rawness of being a human. You know.
Well, the thing is one I always say, but if you want to live off by yourself and you want to wander out in the woods, nobody's going to come look for you. That's the easiest thing
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
If
That's
you
true
want to,
too.
it's hard. Uh, uh, how to find food and water and all that kind of stuff. Actually survive on that. That's a different story. Most people have to be trained for that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. It's a question of the environment that you grow up in. You know.
Yeah,
I mean, that's definitely learned behavior. You have to learn to do that.
yeah. Most people that are survivalists live fairly close to a city, to
Uh huh.
civilization. They don't move out in the
Mm.
middle of absolute nowhere.
Right.
They're fairly close to a city. So
Mm.
even though they're not part of the city, part of the human population per se, but the thing is they're right on the edge.
Yeah. So basically they got 1 foot off the grid and 1 foot in.
Yeah, they're close enough to where they could, if they need something, they can access it.
Yeah.
That's where most people live. Most people I've seen that are quote unquote survivalists, they're right on the edge of what we call civilization.
Mm.
So,
Okay. Just thought I'd ask.
well, Semper Fidelis, what has you interested in that? Is there a population of people who are talking about
Well,
doing that, or
well, I mean, well, years back, I read about it and I saw documentaries about it. How these
Hmm.
people are living this raw life,
Hmm.
and with all the computer technology, especially AI, 5G, and the concept of humans and what is it? Francis Fukuyama calls it. What does he call it? Transhumanism or something like that.
Hmm.
Uh, I was just wondering what what your thoughts were on that on survivalists.
I mean, there's always been people like that
Yeah.
that live just outside of a society. There's always been people like that.
Hmm.
So, uh, uh, shaman. I live on, for years lived on the outside of just on the outside of society. So
Yeah.
there's always going to be people like that. So that's not unusual.
Yeah. I mean for example the Roma people for generations. Okay, the Europeans call them gypsies, right?
Yeah. Uh huh.
They lived as nomads for
Mm-hmm.
very long periods of time. They went one place, they stayed there for a while,
Mm-hmm.
they get work, they get plot of land and they build up on it for a while and then they will move on,
Yeah.
to someplace totally different and they will have to readjust again, to the lifestyle, the laws of that land where they moved to. But
Yeah.
they've done this successfully for a very long period of time.
Oh,
I
that's
don't think
yeah.
they do it as much as they used to, but you
Yeah,
know.
but it's probably harder to do it now because the society's so developed. It's probably a lot tougher to do it.
Yeah.
Um, you still have people on the continent in the Middle East that still do that. The
Uh-huh.
Bedouin go from one end of the Arabian Peninsula to the next, and they just accept it. They
Yeah.
herd their sheep, they herd their goats. They live off the land. They know where the water tables are, and they just wander from one spot to the next. So they've been
Hmm.
doing that for quite a while.
Yeah. It's written in history pertaining to Islam that the Prophet Muhammad, when he finally took flight from
Mm-hmm.
he left from Mecca, right? He went
Mm-hmm.
to Medina, the
Mm-hmm.
second holy land of Islam, and he met up with the Bedouins, and the
Mm-hmm.
Bedouins trusted him more than his own people in Mecca. And they
Yeah.
came back and they cleaned out the Kaaba. So as the story goes, as history goes,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Yeah. There's always been people like that.
Mm.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask a question. We've been joined by Sir Pookie Truth. This is his first time on my platform. Welcome. What do you guys just mentioned 5G? Master Teacher,
Mm.
when this
How
whole
y'all
thing
brothers
started,
doing this morning?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
was it,
Pretty
were
good. Salute.
you, Master
Go with
Teacher,
that,
were you
Demar.
ever concerned about the 5G as a health hazard?
Yeah, yeah. It still is. It's still a concern, right?
Okay.
I mean, it depends on how high you turn up the wattage, um, how you inundate people's cells. They've been ex, you know ex, they actually were talking about that well with 1G as far as the wattage and where you place the phone, all that kind of stuff. So basically, it's been a cancer causing agent for quite a while. Um, with 5G, if they turn up the wattage too high, birds will actually fall out of the sky. So it depends on tuning it to the right frequency, tuning it to the right wattage. So that's how come 5G has to be um, have to have more cells. They have to have more sites than say the 3 and 4G. If that
Hmm.
as you get higher up as far as the G's are concerned, okay, you have to build a different infrastructure for it because if you turn up the wattage too high, you will damage people.
Yeah. I could imagine that if you turn up the wattage too high on 5G, that people's central nervous systems will go crazy.
Is it be-
That can happen to sensitive people.
is it because of the radiation? Is it because of how the particles interact with the
Your your
human body, or
your all your cells. Okay, your cells, your body itself are basically fields, magnetic fields, right?
hmm
All condensed in a complex manner. So any kind of radiation, any kind of magnetic radiation can actually disrupt parts of that field, and nobody knows exactly how, uh, you know, how it's actually going to react. Dr. Dunbar probably deals with this stuff all the time. Okay, uh, different things that actually can actually disrupt become a health hazard. Say like a microwave. There's a reason that your microwave is shielded. Is
Hmm.
mm,
because microwaves will actually fry your insides. And
true?
basically 5G, 3G, 4G, 5G are actually microwaves. But the thing is that um, I think microwaves to actually cook food, I think is like up to 5 to like 1,500 watts, whereas 5G microwave is like maybe 5 watts. So in other words,
Uh-huh.
if you turn up the wattage, you will fry people.
Okay, so could we with the electromagnetism? Is there a way that because with all this electromagnetism, I thought I heard that this causes genetic mutation. So is there a
It
way
can.
that
It can. Yeah.
okay, so yeah, with that being said, is there like a way where we can get some kind of positive genetic benefit out of using like radiation and
It's
radioactive
because it's random. Okay. They used to do gene mutations with radioactivity and that kind of stuff. The thing is, they have CRISPR is actually a cleaner method. Actually, just snip it off. But you can cause mutations. But the thing is, it's so random and uncontrollable. Most people wouldn't try it.
uh but you
Mm.
always okay, okay, so but there's always like the potential for like human beings to develop like extra appendages like wings over time, like due to like the environment changing. Is that a possibility?
It would
I
take
think,
millions of years. I think it took hundreds of thousands of years for that kind of change to happen.
yeah, I think for this particular thing, we're talking about you're more likely to get
Hmm.
um,
Cancer,
DNA breakage.
DNA
Uh,
You
breakage. Yeah,
talking about
yeah,
breakages? Okay.
yeah,
How do you talk about
Ooh.
direct mutation? Okay.
yeah.
yeah.
Well,
But
Um,
because it acts like radiation.
yes, so when you get
that's it.
strand breaks, you'll get um,
Damaged copies of
cell
the cell.
transformation and tumor formation.
Yeah,
But to grow wings, and now you're talking about a whole different
yeah,
genome. We'd have to introduce specific
Mm.
genes and
Mhm.
regulators, and
yeah.
that's different.
So, in other words, it would go far worse before it advances.
So we're talking about 5G or what?
You born
Yeah.
in?
No, I don't think so. Thing is, if you AI can't
No,
advance without 5G, and
no, no. I'm talking about. I'm talking about where so Pookie Truth was talking about human beings developing wings and things like that.
yeah, that's probably gonna take a while. And the thing is, one, how many people do you want to lose experimenting with something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Uh,
That's the idea. That's the frame of mind that I was in. Also, how many people would you actually lose? How many lives would be destroyed before it actually advanced to that
yeah,
point where
well,
you,
Well, you'd be creating
that,
a whole new organism,
yeah,
yeah.
and
which is a fascinating discussion, because I wonder um, what technologies and what innovations people are already working on that we don't know about.
yeah,
So as we're talking about this, I wouldn't doubt that someone's already working on that.
yeah.
Well, what about the people who do the what is it? Is it called cryonics or something like that? When people freeze their bodies?
Cryogenics.
Yeah, hoping to come,
Cryogenics.
hoping to thaw themselves,
Yeah,
get
yeah.
themselves thawed out later on.
Yeah. Walt Disney's still frozen, hoping to get thawed out.
Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Wow, that's see for me, for me, man, that's spooky science, man. you know, I mean, because I'll tell you, I'm very rudimentary minded when it comes to these new types of technology and stuff like that, man. So, when you talk about cryogenics, people freezing their bodies, hoping to thaw out, 50, 100 years from now and live
mm-mm.
life like they lived it before. I mean,
In other words, they're trying to retain what they think of as being human, uh,
yeah,
in a frozen state, and hopefully that technology will actually catch up and actually be able to unthaw.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, as a biological scientist, the question is, and I'm sure they've already thought about this, but will biologically, will those cells, will they work the same way if you unthaw him? And then the question is, where has his soul gone? Is his soul still in there?
That we
yeah,
can't answer.
Yeah.
yeah.
That can't be answered just yet.
That's a hell of a question right there.
The soul. Who we talking about? Hold on.
When you, when you, when
The human soul, because we have no idea what the human soul is.
Well,
Oh,
BGS
isn't that
shared
close
that
to like
BGS shared
consciousness?
that Walt
We don't
Disney's
know.
body is frozen.
Yeah,
It
Mm.
is. It's
yeah.
the.
I think his head, or I think it's either his body or his head. I can't remember which one. But yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I heard they had that nigga hanging up in some like meat freezer somewhere.
No, 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 no. It can't be a meat freezer. It's
No, it's
got to
more
be.
sophisticated
I
than
know.
that.
I
Yeah.
know BGS, but it's been like 25 years. That nigga been even in the back of
No,
somebody's
no, no,
fucking.
no. No. There's facilities for people that have done that. He's not the first one.
But how
Mm,
long has he
yeah.
been in there? Like, damn, isn't his body?
I
He's
can't.
got body got to be like
I
yogurt at
don't.
this point. Like,
No, no. You frozen solid. We've dug up. You dug up animals like thousands of years old,
Yep.
and they
That were
and they
frozen and
they're
mummified.
frozen. Yeah, they mummified. They still have the plants in their mouth that they were chewing on when they died.
Yeah. And I read about that. That's some weird stuff there, man. Reading about that and actually seeing photographs of these
Mm,
animals and things like
mm-hmm.
that. That in that state.
oh, like the mammoths and stuff and shit. Like where
Yeah.
they
I
be
Yeah.
mean,
under
I
the
mean,
ice. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
like mummified bodies, man. That were born that were buried in special, sarcophaguses,
Mm-hmm.
sarcophages,
Oh, you talking
and
about Egypt?
they were mummified, going back
So
to
what?
ancient Egypt.
Well, yeah,
BGS talking about ice.
mummification is different, but the thing is that we're talking about cryogenics, where the
Yeah.
body, where you actually slow the decay right down to where it's almost nil.
Yeah,
That's what
Yeah.
he's not talking.
cryogenics
He's
is.
not. Yeah,
Hmm.
with the Egyptians, they were trying to. They are inducing that process with the pharaoh stuff. He's talking. You talking about BGS, animals that just get caught in that. Like a lot of these, like
Yeah,
mammoths and saber-toothed cats. Like after the asteroid hit, like temperatures got so cold. A lot of these animals got caught up in
yeah,
situations where they just ended up getting frozen alive.
yeah. That's why
So
you can dig up a mammoth like 10,000 years old, and the meat's still fresh.
Yeah. Mm.
So that's what cryogenics is about. It
I don't
just slows
understand.
down the decay.
Mm.
Okay, but why I don't understand. Since we have so many of these older animals, what's stopping these people from initiating the cloning process, and like and maybe like potentially bringing some of these species back to the planet? Cause
We
Jurassic
don't.
Park.
Well, it's one. It's a uh, they would say with the cloning process is that it's not perfect. I mean,
Mm.
have they tried doing it? Um, yeah, they've tried doing it, and the bigger the organism, the tougher it gets. So they've done it. They've done it before. The thing is, it's not perfect. It's still developing.
Well, Dolly the sheep.
Yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah,
they clone.
that's got to be like 20 years. What, 30 years ago, Dolly the sheep.
Yeah, they've been
Yeah.
cloning sheep and they were cloning dogs, but the problem that I hear is like the dog will look like that another dog, but it'll only live like half as long, which is
Yeah,
like
that's the
fuck.
problem. Yeah, yeah, that's the problem.
I'm like,
Yeah.
how does that even happen, BGS? That doesn't even make sense. If it's an exact carbon copy of the dog, how the fuck is the dog dying
It
after?
Well,
uh,
so Pookie,
it's not perfect.
if you think about the entire life of an organism,
Hmm.
Hmm.
it has to be conceived, it has to develop organs, it has to grow to size,
Hmm.
and then if you create it so it's already an adult,
Yeah,
is that how they do it?
yeah,
So it's already an
Yeah.
adult. You've
Yep.
already cut off half the life stage, half
yeah.
the lifetime.
Oh yeah, I never thought about it like.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, but
You you
some of these,
replicate.
some.
You're replicating an adult, so all the decay and DNA damage that's been done over living a lifetime has already been done. Or doing is copying it.
Oh
Mm.
shit! So that's the problem. We got to
That's the
figure out a
problem.
way to unwrite that damage and
Yeah,
like
that's why
somehow.
it's easier to actually design the human being uh, and actually fertilize it the same way you would do a infant
Yeah.
instead of
Mm.
cloning it. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, but I mean, basically, even that method, you could still end up like damn near cloning someone BGS because it could be like kind of like a Gemini Man situation where the nigga was
Uh,
just fertilized and they just brought the nigga up like young.
yeah,
You
that
remember the
that
movie Will Smith in the
yeah,
team?
yeah, yeah. The thing is, it's still imperfect, so there's a lot we don't know. Dr.
Okay, I
Dunbar
mean,
can say
damn.
science. Science probably only knows a tenth about what it doesn't know. Okay,
Agree.
people think science is this exact. Um, basically uh, garbage in, garbage out. Basically, we know exactly to the T what we're doing now. You
Mm.
probably in science you probably fail like 100 times more than you actually succeed.
Yeah, because we're not
But like,
rational and we're doing the science.
No, no, that's not rational. Then basically you're trying something that nobody else has tried, and basically there's a lot of failure in there. But thing is, you
Yeah,
only have to succeed is once,
yeah,
and then everybody else will copy you.
yeah. That's true too. Yeah.
So I mean,
That's,
okay, with the so with the cloning, how long you think that's gonna take, BGS? Like another 15
do
years?
clone
uh,
what?
d- go ahead.
To
Or
clone
like
what?
The-
cloning like well cloning like commercially like dogs, potentially like I suppose like cats, different animals, and that's I suppose at that higher level, like in
Oh, you
terms of
talking about
military use, like
you talking
cloning
about
like soldiers.
talking about commercially or what?
Commercially and well I know the military probably already doing this shit, but like major commercial and like military use, like how
It,
long?
it'll probably take about 50 years before it gets to be in commercial production like that.
Okay.
The basic science is already there. The thing is, how do you engineer to where it's almost like creating a big screen TV?
Oh, okay. Because I know we'll have some problems. Because the government, if you think about it, I don't know why they wouldn't just clone like somebody like Francis and Ngannou like 100,000 times
Because
and just train.
because morally, it's not. People don't agree with it, so it's not
Yeah.
just them
People don't
doing it.
want to
It's
get their
also
ass whipped.
no,
Mm.
it's not that. It's just morally. People don't agree with it morally. Like I'm sure Eric doesn't agree with it morally.
No, I don't.
Yeah, so
I
that's
don't. Yeah.
that's the
I
problem.
mean, yeah. I have reasons why I disagree with it morally, but I just, I mean, because the question that you brought up, BGS,
Hmm.
with Walt Disney, is it sold there? Does it
We don't
exist or
know.
not?
We don't
And
know.
that's the point. We don't
Yeah.
know. So
Well,
with that question in my mind, it's always going to be there until there are proofs to show it. Yay
I
or
mean,
nay.
how many times have human beings did something and developed something, even if they whether they knew or not?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that's true too.
There's one thing with it. The thing is with science is not can it be done, whether it should be done, and 9 times out of 10,
Yeah.
whether it
Hmm.
should be done or not, people still do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
well, I was going to say that for every technology and every innovation we make,
Hmm.
unfortunately, there are destructive applications for it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I've always, when I think of cloning and thinking about the movies and stuff like that, you, can't you foresee replacing world leaders, taking a world leader out and cloning them, and then putting your version of him in there? Or there are so many misuses for something like that.
Yeah, there
But
is,
yeah.
there
But
is.
damn, I mean, wouldn't you have like a damn Hitler 10.0?
Probably not.
Imagine someone like BGS with the body of a 19-year-old. Like he still has all his
Nah,
knowledge, but with the body
Mm.
of a 19-year-old, he's effectively started over with all his shit, with all his game saves from before.
basically they're trying to perfect that where you don't have to clone a person. Basically, you actually repair the telomeres and do a repair on the DNA damage, and the person resets back to what age, what 25 or something like that.
Mm.
But shit, that's not good enough. They need to put me back at 19. Fuck that.
You're already 19.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
But
Shit, when I
but
fucking stop being 19.
yeah, but the more apprehensiveness, Francis Fukuyama, he writes about that.
Hmm.
Even when it comes to like, I'm talking about, going to sperm donors, for, designer babies and this
Hmm.
type of thing. And he talks
Hmm.
about, well, okay, there can be some advantages to it, there can be some disadvantages to it,
Hmm.
but when it comes to the moral question, I mean, for most people still today, it's morally reprehensible to do it.
It,
So a lot of people don't do it, while you have some people who will most certainly give it a shot.
and is morally basically morally wrong in
Mhm.
certain societies, but not in others. Do the
Yeah,
Chinese feel the same way?
yeah, yeah.
Is it
Mm.
reprehensible in China?
Probably, maybe not,
Exactly.
because
So
yeah,
basically, okay. Let's put it
Probably
this way.
not.
let's put it this way. Say it's morally reprehensible in the United States, in Western Europe, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
Chinese and say Korea don't believe in that, right? So they're producing all these designer babies. They're actually beating the crap out of everybody else. What is the West going to do? They're going to accept second place, or they're going to actually get on board?
They just may very well get on board. I don't know. I mean,
They they would.
such a large question, man. That
No, it's not. It's really very simple.
you think so?
Yeah, oh
Well, I
yeah.
mean, look
It's
at
an arm.
once one country does something, every other country has to choose to adapt or follow suit, or as BGS said, you might fall behind. I mean, look at what we everyone has had to do because of this pandemic. Everyone's had to adjust
Mm-hmm.
and adapt,
Well, that's
and
good. Yeah,
so yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
look at
Okay.
look at nuclear weapons. They were morally reprehensible, right, for the most part. People agree.
Yeah,
But
they deterred
it,
any maybe a third world war at the
yeah,
same time
well,
too.
it probably did. But the thing is, if your neighbor has them and you don't,
Yeah,
guess
of
what? The
course.
neighbor
Yeah, you're
has an
gonna want to
advantage
get
over
them.
you. You're gonna want to
Yeah,
get
that's
one.
true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with this. Human
Yeah.
beings are not that complex.
Mm.
BGS Black Uru says BGS in a 19-year-old body is the featured supervillain in the next Black Panther movie.
Probably would be. Probably would be.
Oh.
World domination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A world subversion, more likely.
World conversion.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, but then that brings a question to my mind when you talk about world domination. So
Mm-hmm.
does that mean that there will always be governments, okay, in countries of the world that will always seek out enemies?
So what do you mean by seek out enemies?
Any person that is considered to be more advanced than you
Mm-hmm.
technologically or in any sort
Yeah.
of way are your
Okay.
enemy.
No, they're your rival,
Okay, but
not
do
your
they not
enemy.
eventually become your enemy? You
Why
want to
would
take
they?
them out, don't you, to take over, right?
They're your. You don't have to be your enemy to be your rival. They could have been your friend yesterday.
Well, yeah, that's true. But people are fickle in their thinking, though, aren't they?
And one thing is, if you take out your rival because, or actually supplant your rival because
Yeah,
you want the top spot, that means that's your
yeah,
enemy.
yeah.
Giyagami says if artificial wombs and neurocognitive engineering spreads in one country, the others would have to follow suit or risk extinction. A technocracy would ensue. So neurocognitive engineering.
Yeah. In other words, wiring the brain, engineering, rewiring the brain to be cognizant of the internet, cognizant of different sensory realms, higher thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. I read an article out. I read an article out of southern Russia about.
Mm,
They showed this baby was really tiny. They had all type of tubes connected to it to keep it breathing, to keep the
mm-hmm.
blood flow going right, and things like that. But this
Mm-hmm.
baby supposedly was born out of an artificial womb.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean,
And this was a couple of years ago. Yeah,
yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, they're just not going to announce it. I think
yeah.
the twins they announced in China were actually artificially inseminated, actually come out of artificial womb. But the thing is, he talked too much. I mean,
Mm,
nobody wants to announce it until it's actually perfected and it's actually morally acceptable. I don't think we're there
yeah.
yet.
Mm,
If they can do a sheep, they can do a human being.
yeah.
They
Interesting.
just want to make sure it's
Well, the thing is, if they announce it, what's going to happen?
Mm, yeah.
People are going to
true.
attack them, so they try to keep it quiet until they
Yeah.
perfect it, at least to get to the point
Yeah.
um, where it's engineered to the point where people can't really attack it very well. So
Hmm. I think people are always quietly and not so quietly inquisitive. So they want to experiment, do different things all the time. So
Oh yeah, that's human. That's just humans. Period.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's not. It doesn't have to be a lot of them, but it has to be, a nice little cohort. But that's been since human beings actually came out of the trees.
Yeah.
Even monkeys are inquisitive.
Yeah. Mm,
Yeah, it's just fascinating where we're going. So, artificial wombs, virtual reality,
Hmm.
uh, space travel's going further.
Yeah. If their warp bubble is real, then that's going to be a game changer.
They need to go ahead and hire us, some of us buck niggas to go out to that asteroid belt so we can get them resources.
You don't. Well, be careful what you ask for.
yeah.
Nah, nigga, they gonna pay
You
me
just
well.
might
Shit, I've
get
been
it.
researching. Shit,
Be
I've been
careful what.
researching these.
Be
Uh,
careful what you ask for. I don't think it's going to be people per se. I think it's going to be they're actually
robots.
going to yeah, they're actually going to be robots. Now may have a person out there to actually supervise the robots, but I think it's going to be robots.
Shit, I hold it down.
It
I
doesn't it
mean,
doesn't it doesn't make sense to send humans out there.
well, I mean, they got yeah. It doesn't make sense to see the mass amount of humans, but you gotta remember BGS. Like, what if the robots are gonna need maintenance? You're gonna need somebody to clean the debris off the robots. De-radiate them every
Nah,
night.
no, the robots can actually do that themselves. They don't need that,
We that advanced.
huh?
Our shit's like that. We got our shit like that because last time I was
Uh,
checked, we were still dropping rovers and shit on Mars just a couple of years ago. So I
Yeah, that's
got
rovers. What I'm saying is we're a ways away from that. I think we're like maybe 20, 30 years away from that. Actually mining the asteroids.
oh, okay.
But think by then, the artificial intelligence and I think robots will actually be advanced enough. They probably already are. You know,
Pookie,
Okay
are
to do
you
that.
are you brave enough to go up in a spaceship?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I wanted to be an astrophysicist slash like astronaut when I was coming up, so I did a lot of research into that
yeah,
stuff. That's why I'm even bringing it up. I mean, I understand the dangers of it, but like I don't really give a fuck as long as
yeah.
I'm paid good and shit.
That's why they're trying to figure out ways to make space travel less expensive. Right now, it's still really expensive.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
the expanse the expanse probably does a pretty good job of explaining it. But the thing is, we're talking about it. For get an operation like that, we're probably talking about at least 100 years.
oh, honey is like a station out in orbit. I mean,
Yeah.
it would take that long.
No, not a
Yeah.
station out. We're actually mining the asteroid belt. That's how
Okay.
come they want to go to Mars because Mars is actually more like a way station for the asteroid belt.
Okay. So you said okay. So like 100.
It's
I
about 100
mean,
years.
I mean, but we could use those resources now. We gonna be able to make it 100 years.
Hey, BGS.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, first of all, thanks for having me. Thanks
Right.
for having me up on your panel, Dr. Dunbar.
Hmm.
Would this be a moral loophole to cloning, uh, planetary travel and colonization,
Fuck no.
creating a different group of people for planetary colonization?
Different people.
It could be, but the thing is, I think by the time you're ready to colonize another planet, I think most people will have settled the moral dilemma about cloning.
Mm. Well, basically, with the cloning thing, you
But
think
but what
everybody
up?
got?
But hold on, brother. But you would use the projected goal
Hmm.
of colonization 50 or 100 years from now as justification for cloning now. That this is
Nah,
a part of the preparation for
we
interstellar colonization. And
we
cloning
talking
would
about.
be a part of the critical path to eventually getting there where we have this different group of people,
Mm-hmm.
maybe more perfected group of human beings
Uh huh.
going out into the cosmos, if you will.
I mean, you can, but my thing is that
You wouldn't
uh,
have to clone. You could.
what I'm saying is, if you're going to design a baby, okay, design a human being, right? Um, all it takes is one country to actually decide we're actually going to do it, and if they're producing more superior human beings, everybody else is going to follow suit. So in other words, that's always that's the question. If you had to have a child, right, that has to compete, and
Hmm.
you have the child that's been that's been artificially produced versus the one that's naturally produced. But the thing is, and that the one that's naturally produced has to compete against the other one. Which one would you pick? Which child would you want to have?
The enhanced one. You'd want the enhanced one.
You want the enhanced ones. Most people would. If
Yeah.
you want your child to
Yeah.
compete. So that will actually actually
Why wouldn't
go ahead.
why wouldn't China have already attempted to do this? What would be the
Well,
moral impediment to China?
It's authoritarian
um,
there.
I don't think the science is perfected yet enough to where that you can actually start producing them, and so far just like anybody else, they're afraid of the backlash that they would get. Um, but eventually, they're going to get over that. If you get to the point where it's actually an advantage, they'll actually produce it no matter what people say, and then people have to follow suit.
Especially with China, they really don't give a fuck.
And and most of you, I think the younger generations have no problem with producing children that way. We do, but I don't think they do.
Artificially or,
No.
or genetic engineering?
Well,
Both.
yeah, because in large part they're not nearly as religious as
Yeah,
we have been in prior
yeah,
generations.
yeah. They've been born with this with these outlooks and this kind of technology. So
So it is what it is.
yeah, and I've seen polls and it says like Gen Z and Gen Z and downward have no problems with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have no like religious problem. I just don't want my kid to die after like 27 years because of
Well,
some
the thing,
old.
well, that's why they have to perfect the technology.
Okay, I mean, this shit is getting it's kind of weird when you think about this kind of stuff. Like
Well,
the
it'll be a
cloning,
game
like
changer. It would
Mm,
be a game changer if you don't have to worry about mating. If you could
yeah.
just, create a seed, you raise it by yourself. You don't have to worry about divorce or
Hmm.
um, any of those other things. That's a game changer.
Yeah. The thing is, who's in charge? Are the parents or is it the state? Because once it gets into the hands of the state, they can produce as many kids as they want.
if they want to, and they're not gonna stop. Yeah, but okay, but the women, this doesn't fix
Now,
their
now,
problem. They
now
still hold on, brother. This doesn't fix their problem with in terms of the women because they're still gonna be dying alone. How are they gonna feel about this?
Did
I
what
don't think they're gonna
society,
like this at all.
what the society will take care of them. So, and people always figure out how to form different social bonds. They just have to form different social bonds.
Oh, okay. With a clone motherfucker, like imagine BGS,
It,
like you
it,
talking to your clone
well,
son.
the thing is, what doesn't matter if a human being is a human being. If they actually operate as human being, that's fine. Or basically, artificial or robot taking care of them. If you can bond to a dog, you can bond to a robot that's intelligent enough.
Mm.
I mean, if we have AI and robots,
Hmm.
I mean, what is the value of cloning or even um, artificial? I mean, what's the value of attempting to perfect the human body if
Hmm.
most, if not all, the major tasks can ultimately much more efficiently be performed by way of artificial intelligence and some sort of
So,
android or the equivalent?
so
You Terminator?
who are the robots and the artificial intelligence serving? What's their purpose?
Well, it depends. How many people do they have to serve?
We don't know.
Do
The
they
thing is,
do they have to serve 1 billion, 2 billion, 5 billion?
we don't
And
know.
and and, and you also have just the issue of the consumption of resources.
Yeah, we don't.
If the
We don't.
average it,
But the thing,
well,
if we start mining the asteroid belt, that won't be a problem. And recycling resources and all that kind of stuff, all that stuff can actually be solved. The thing is that if artificial intelligence and robots don't have humans to serve, what's their purpose?
okay, so now on the mining asteroid belt, so
Hmm.
those resources,
Mm-hmm.
the energetic as well as the material
Mm-hmm.
output
Mm-hmm.
disruption, where will that occur? Will that occur on? Will they be utilized on Earth, or will they be utilized in those outer realms? Because we're already presumably at some sort of precipice environmentally on Earth. So now we're talking about the possibility of introducing elements outside of the natural environment of this planet onto this planet. I would
Mhm.
think the environmental consequences alone
You
could
you
be
you you br- you break
cataclysmic.
you break them down into their atomic components. You can actually break these things down. You don't have to bring back uh, basically what they call uh, harmful things. If you say if you need gold, okay, gold you can purify. Carbon if you need it, that can be purified. A lot of this stuff can actually be broken down and actually purified. You don't have to bring them back. When you mine them and purify them, you're not bringing back a whole asteroid. Okay, you're bringing back you mining golds, diamonds, even water or something like that as in its purified form.
Just taking it right straight
Now,
from like the
will
ore.
the purification would the purification processing occur in that actual area itself of which
Yeah,
the materials are
or
being extracted and then
it,
forwarded to
it could
Earth,
be.
or
Yeah. That's what would happen. You just like anything else. Let's say you don't. If you take if you mine something on the planet, right? Say, and on the continent, do you bring back the whole mine, or just to extract the minerals or stuff that you need?
so you would have, and they kind of touched on it interestingly enough in the first reboot of the Star Trek franchise,
Mm,
the ship of the villain
yeah,
in that movie. What that was actually a mining ship,
yeah,
from the future. So
yeah,
yeah, I guess that would be a similar sort of situation.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, asteroids have hit this planet before. It happens all the time. These meteorites and all that kind of stuff hit the planet all the time. So that's not unusual. The thing is, if you're out there, would it be processed on the planet? Probably not. Probably be processed on Mars or the Moon first, and then whatever components that you derive out of that, then you would actually bring it to Earth.
Mm.
I'm going to read this question. Corey Wilson says, can the panel address their thoughts of the theoretical technologies of transferring consciousness? We kind of got to this earlier when we talked
Yeah,
about Walt Disney's body being
yeah.
frozen. I think this would be a game changer as well. If we could transfer our consciousnesses from, our natural bodies to other bodies or to some artificial space.
Yeah,
But
that gets into how do you transfer uh, memories or stuff like that from one body to the next. Because we actually don't know what consciousness actually is. We have no clue. Is it is it a product of is it a product of the body? Is it a product of the brain? Is it a combination of both? Nobody really knows.
Yeah, I vote on the brain.
Oh, you want the stack, huh?
No, I want the boil in the bag baby, but if I have to determine where consciousness goes, I think I'm voting on the brain
Mm-hmm.
because since science can't determine where your consciousness goes when you like go to sleep or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
does it exist anywhere or is it on the astral plane or where is it? It has to be somewhere in that
Something
sense.
I've heard it's like it's like it's a projection. In other words, when you wake up, your brain starts moving. All of a sudden, you project out your consciousness. So it's
Exactly.
not. So it's not. It's a process. The thing is, what is the process of? Is it the process of the brain and the body? Is it just the process of the brain? Is it a combination of all of them, or what? Or
Yeah,
do, or
just
do you
But
thinking
do
is
but
that?
your
one
but your
brain part.
brain, your neurological network connects to all parts of your body. So
Yeah.
I just wonder how you can clearly delineate the
The,
brain from the body.
the thing is it a field? Is it a projected field? So does your consciousness exist inside your body, or do you project it out and basically becomes a living field, and that's your
Yeah,
consciousness? The thing is,
my
nobody knows.
philosophy. Yeah, my philosophy is that it's projected in, and that's why you can have a body that is brain dead but is still active. You can get some neural impulses and stuff like that from it. You know, you can screw with it a little bit, but what makes it alive is what's projected into it, and that's your spirit, your soul, whatever you want to call it. Your brain is basically avataring that thing the whole time. So where your
Could be.
consciousness actually goes outside of that is you know, to be determined.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody knows. The thing that's the problem.
So, Artisan, you're proposing that the consciousness projects inward from another source?
Yes, that your consciousness does. My idea, and this kind of gets into some of the Jungian stuff, is that your consciousness does not dwell in your body. Your consciousness dwells somewhere else, say astral plane or whatever, and your consciousness comes into your body. You know, that's the spark of life, whatever. That is what you use to represent yourself on this plane. Now, when you go to sleep or anything else like that, your consciousness is leaving your body at that time. It's still aware, but it's not fully aware of everything that's happening. So that would explain people who could astral project, telepathy, all the rest of that stuff, because you go back to this oneness with everything, and then you project back into your body every other time. That's how you can have people talking about their past lives and stuff like that, and remembering that stuff, because you're still connected to it. You're just remembering that, okay, I didn't always have this one skin. Put it that way.
Okay, so like for example, like let's say Malcolm X was alive today, but he was a reincarnation of like somebody like Kurt Cobain. Like he'd be able to remember performing
You know
on
what that
stage.
Kurt Cobain thing.
Well, I'm just saying, I just picked that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying though, he would be able. I'm just trying to get your point. So basically, Malcolm X would be able to remember times from performing on stage. He may not be able to like put his entire finger on it, but like things are like triggering his past memory, if that's to say, like something is triggering his consciousness to remember a time when he wasn't in the same body, like a time perhaps a few decades before, something like that.
True. Something like that. I mean, one of the religions that I looked into was, I think it was Hinduism. They talked about how reincarnation is basically your life living on a wheel, that you keep going through your life until you actually get it right. You keep ascending or descending based on how you live that last version of your life. Well, within that idea comes the idea that, well, it's just you. So you will have different skins. Whatever you did in this life, you pass on, you go to the next life, you get, you know, to use, you know, scientific terms, you get downloaded into a new skin. You're doing it all again. You may not remember all that stuff, but some stuff carries over. You have intrinsic abilities, you have intrinsic ideas on certain things. You'll probably see some of this in this next Matrix movie. Some of that stuff still lingers there because that's just part of your consciousness. It's just part of who you are as a consciousness. Your skin will always change, but your mind is always there. And that's why you gravitate to somewhat of the same things. That's why when they start talking about this reincarnation stuff, you can see certain traits carry over in people. You can see, he looks like the reincarnation of such and such because he's doing the same things. He's going about things in the same manner. To me, that means, well, maybe it is. Maybe it's just finite. It's not always a different soul. Maybe it's just the same ones constantly getting recirculated.
Basically, because he keeps fucking up and stuff. He keeps like, so basically, does it go? Okay, Artisan, do you think it goes all the way down to like rats and like elephants and shit like that? So basically, like, for example, like if you're fucking up in life to the point where like you can't get a job and you're homeless and shit, like in the next life you get reincarnated as like a rat or a monkey or some shit, or like a house cat.
If you believe like Hindus and stuff like that about your whole thing with the reincarnation and karma, yes, that's why I say cats are reincarnated people, because they act like they've been here before. They have too much personality to just be dumb animals. They're not dumb animals. They act like people who have been here before. That's where they're not impressed by anything. You know, but based on your karmic debt, look, if you were a piece of crap in life, yeah, you could have sent down to becoming a cockroach. That's in their belief. Like, yeah, you can go down in that social chain. Yeah, you can go down to being just a food animal. You can, or you could ascend and be better. It depends. It depends on what you want to believe.
Yeah.
Being a
Well,
fool.
the
Okay.
gurus will say it depends on how you lived your life, how you lived first life.
Well, how long do you
Exactly.
how what's the actual number of human consciousness do you think there are? Like, do you think there's like a number between like 20 million potential, 20 billion
No, we don't
potential
know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
You messed it up, BGS. I was gonna make a joke. I was gonna
Okay.
tell him, well, when I achieve godhood, and get the paperwork back, I'll give you a number. Until then, nobody knows.
All right, man. All right. I'm just saying because this is very interesting. Like, what do you think about that? You believe in resurrection, BGS?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how it works, but thing is,
Yeah.
people make guesses at it. But yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So, in other words,
I believe there's a life beyond this one too. I do.
Yeah, yeah. But it's a
I
belief.
can't
We
prove
have
I
no
can't
proof.
prove it, can't explain it, but you know.
There's
Yeah,
no
that's the
proof.
funny part. You got to die to prove it.
You got to die to prove it.
Yeah.
But you can't come back. You can't
Exactly.
come back and tell
You
anybody.
can't come back
Yeah,
and
you
tell
can't
us.
come back and tell.
Yeah,
That's right.
Those who know don't tell, and those who don't know can't tell.
you can't tell yet.
so in this instance, we're talking about resurrection as the soul going
Mm-hmm.
somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or
not
the
necessarily.
soul is existing as a separate entity of the
Okay,
body.
all right.
Yeah, but
Okay.
nobody knows.
Leaving the human body, but like dying from some 90-year-old man and then being reincarnated into like a fucking into like a day-year-old black child or like a house cat or like a puppy.
Well, it depends on what you believe.
So all those atheists gonna become like fucking rats and shit.
We don't know.
Don't know.
We don't know.
They could be
And
your next Tupac.
That's true.
You never
what's
know.
the hold on, no, what's the deal with the What's the deal with the atheism? Because there's people who don't believe that religion is real and stuff like that,
They don't
and they're
believe in
not
God.
classified.
There's always been people like that.
Mm.
There's
I
always
would
been
say their
people
whole
like that.
position basically proves the point that religion exists because their disbelief is a religion.
It is.
So there you go.
Diagami, if you want to come on up. I'll go for a little while longer. This is a compelling topic that draws people in.
This kind of reminds me of the Coliseum late at night.
Does it?
Yeah. In 3 o'clock in the morning, we're talking about stuff like this.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say that because
reconciling
there's too much sun out. Too much sun out for this kind of conversation.
Reconciling science with religion is an age-old struggle, I think.
I don't, I think, I don't think it's an age-old struggle. I think recently, the last couple of years, couple hundred years, it's a struggle because most of your scientists are actually priests. Going back before the 18th century, I think most of your scientists are actually priests. If you actually read, um, the great inventors, they actually came out of the church. One church or the other, Lutheran, Calvin, Egyptian, Catholic, actually came out of the church. So I don't think it's that big of a struggle. I think just recently with the modern era with liberal thinking, I think starting with Rousseau, they try to separate man from God or the universe from God. But if you actually talk to particle physicists, right, they believe in a God. They do. They
Well,
believe
BGS, I think
in a higher power.
I was thinking back. Well, Rael says here's a classic example. The Catholic Church fought Galileo, which caused a split with church and science, and then also when you think about evolution
Without what?
versus creationalism.
Oh, you always going to have dissenting voices even within the church. The Catholic Church fought for hundreds of years. They helped the first formation of the Christian Church. Before the Council of Nicaea, there was a split, competing religions, basically Christianity versus paganism in Rome and Greece. There's always been a split between competing philosophies and religion. It's not new. Go if like I said, that's why I always recommend a good book, the origin and evolution of religion, right? Because they talk about all these splits and different ideas and philosophies and schools of thought. So it's not new. But most of your scientists, man, are priests.
Even
They're
even
before,
not, even the modern day, or are you talking about just like back in the day?
no, back, but basically, the only people that really got educated to that degree are either priests or nobles.
Well, I got a question for
Exactly.
the panel.
Yeah.
Uh,
What?
since
What?
since since we've talked about the end of life, and Gigami, I'll give it to you after we do this. In your opinions, when does life begin? Is it at when sperm joins egg, or is it at birth,
I think it's sperm joins egg, to be honest, because that's what creates the
or
union and starts the
or
process.
implantation to the uterus?
I think when sperm joins egg, but the thing is that we go by the breath,
Mhm.
because that's all we could see. For what 300 for like before like a couple hundred years. That's all we could see when life began. We had no idea that life could begin. Outside the womb. Got a lot of noise, Eric.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
sorry about that.
and that's a question that there's a scientific context. Of course, we talk about the social
Mm-hmm.
and the community aspect here, but
Mm-hmm.
that's a since Rael mentioned the Catholic Church, that's an argument in there as well. In terms of abortion, when is the
Mm-hmm.
baby actually alive?
Right. Yeah. You have to classify. You have to make a law. When is the baby actually alive? When do you determine that life actually begins?
Or
That's
recently in
that's
Texas, is it the heartbeat?
the heartbeat. Yeah.
The first heartbeat, so it doesn't even matter if it's an actual like body in there. It's just the heartbeat.
In other
That's what
words,
the
when it
fuck
gets
man
a
goes on.
heart or something like that, that's just a designation for legal purposes. When do they believe life begins?
Oh, so they can be able to kill life before that point. That's what they
Or
want to do.
or basically the baby might not attach, the fetus might not attach and be go out. If a fertilized egg can actually get washed through and not implant into the womb. Is it alive? Okay. Thing is, when do you determine it? When do you measure it? What criteria do you actually use?
Oh, okay, true.
I would say when the cells start separating, I would consider that life
Okay, that's
in some
almost that's
form
almost
or
immediate.
another.
That's
Yeah,
almost immediate. Yeah.
yeah. Now, if you want to go off of consciousness, where it's actually taking a breath, like you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the argument can be made for saying that too. That just gives people more time to think about their dumbass decisions.
I mean, because hold on, your cells could be alive after you die. So I don't know about all that, in my opinion.
Well,
You,
cells don't have no higher brain function, but we do consider them alive in some senses because they
Mm-hmm.
operate on their own.
Yeah.
Right?
true,
There is life in some senses. So when we're
true,
going out to space and looking on these other planets, we're not looking for fully formed fetuses, are we? We're looking for
true.
cells
Mm-hmm.
or
That's right.
anything to prove that there's some kind of life there. So if you
Yeah.
understand on a far off planet that that is life, then the act of reproducing a cell and the cell starting to split
Yeah.
means there's life there. So I
Yeah.
don't see
There's
what we're
life
talking
that
about.
we're talking about
And
complex life with
well, you
multiple
but
organisms.
you talk about
One time.
but if we're talking about ethics, right? We're talking about life in
Mm-hmm.
general. At the point of
Mm-hmm.
conception, life begins because the cell splitting and multiplication stage starts then. When the sperm and the ovum commingle together because the sperm
Mm-hmm.
penetrates the ovum, right?
Yeah. No, if we just go by cells, your sperm are already alive. Before they,
Yeah. Hmm.
Exactly,
before they hit an
BGS. That's
egg.
the other
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Sperms have a lifespan.
Yeah.
Sperms have a lifespan. So that means there's already life. As soon as it hits that egg, there is life within that egg.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you
So
want to accept it or not, that's
And the
life.
eggs got to be fertile and living too, right? Because the sperm's got to
Mm,
penetrate it for the
It's
point of
it's
conception to begin,
aren't the eggs
right?
dormant though?
one
The
time.
eggs are dormant.
The eggs are dormant. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
that's why I said women aren't considered mass murderers for having a period because it's just useless stuff at that point. The
Yeah.
Yeah.
body
It's
is
just
washing it
Bacteria.
out. It's not
yeah.
fertilized. But once you
Yeah.
put a sperm in there that's actually alive and actually has
Mm-hmm.
to make a journey to get to that egg, the egg is just
Mm-hmm.
hanging around. That
Mm-hmm.
is
Yeah.
life. So once it enters that egg, that is life. Life has
Yeah.
now entered that egg. You call it what you
Yeah.
want to after that, but it's still alive at that point.
Yeah.
Isn't like
Hey,
like an unfertilized egg under like a period? Isn't that like just like one of the chicken eggs from the market, basically?
No,
Like the same kind of.
no.
I know
If
it's not like chicken.
chicken eggs are fertilized.
yeah.
Oh yeah, true. Okay. Well, can't you get unfertilized?
No, you
But
cannot.
you're talking about eating an egg. You're talking about eating an embryo.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and
Okay.
the shell is like a womb.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have without a rooster. You cannot have eggs.
It's true.
Wow. Two quick announcements. I want to thank BGS for being here and also for sharing the stream. Our camera's on.
Damn, artist. You want to
Let's
make a
go.
point,
Let's
didn't
go,
you?
Art.
Yeah.
Motherfucker trying to eat a whole ass.
Oh boy, making me hungry.
He's showing
I
that
want
that's
to
the egg.
Yeah.
I want to thank BGS and Roger for sharing the stream. Roger came through. If anyone wants to donate to the channel, I'm gonna leave my Cash App and PayPal in the chat.
Support your scholars,
And
as always.
Giagami hasn't spoken
Definitely.
yet, so I want to give Giagami the mic.
So first, thank you, Dr. Dunbar, for having me on the panel. Greetings to everyone on the panel, to the elders and the brothers, and everyone in the chat as well. So
Okay.
I found the whole conversation to be really interesting, from the science all the way to the esoteric aspect of things. Because Brother MC was especially describing something we call the cycle of the soul in the incarnation systems, which Elder BGS knows quite a lot about. And even if you consider, for example, the African systems, we do not see science and spirituality as distinct. It's actually one and the same. Just have degrees of subtlety, even to the point of saying that there's no such thing that is invisible. There's only degrees of blindness or degrees of sight. And for example, when the brother Artisan MC was describing that the consciousness or the soul was in an other plane, without going to because there are things which cannot be described, or the tell out loud, we say that the soul, for example, the Moyo lives in the fourth dimension. The fourth is linked to the physical body, but it does not reside, for say, in the body.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
So actually, the human is a multidimensional entity. It's as if there's the soul, there is the consciousness, and way above there is the spirit. Not spirits with the S at the end, but the elevated state. So what we happen to be, it's as if we are operating a computer, a vehicle computer, and we have to, quote unquote, incarnate the consciousness within an operating system, which can then travel within the dimension in which it resides, which is why knowing the environment is so much important, because if you do not comprehend the environment, you do not know how your consciousness can interpret the information it receives and how to navigate. So each body that you have, we said that you have 7 bodies plus 2, so 9 whole bodies. This, which is the Egyptian system, is also the Congo system. You have the physical body represented, for example, by the square. There is the soul, which is represented by the triangle, and there's the spirit, the true origin, which is represented by the circle. But we incarnate Muntu. Muntu, for example, means the incarnations within the DNA. The Tu NTU is DNA. It is already in the Congo systems. In other words, our DNA is a form of anchorage for our consciousness within the body. But we do not come from this plane, which is why there's a Congo saying, which translates in English as, we are in this world, but we are not from this world.
Yeah.
Let others speak.
I mean, scripture backs up what you say. It's been backing up what you say for a long time.
Okay, so the consciousness argument is just like I don't even want to. It's so hard to go down that because it just seems like it's just coming from the head, man. It nothing to do with the fucking body. It's just shit's wired down to the body.
It's all one. The thing is, there's really no separation.
Yeah.
Because your soul has to make your body. Your body won't start growing without that spark of life. And where the spark of life comes from is, in fact, you know, your nervous system actually forms first. So in other words, that
Exactly.
connection forms first.
The
Yeah.
cell,
Look at.
right? The cell forms its
When
nervous
no when
service.
it when, no, when it splits,
Okay.
when the sperm meets the egg and it combines and then it's split into two pieces. Okay, that's the mind and body connection right there.
Yeah.
Splits into two.
Look at some videos on. It might be some on YouTube. Truth of what is
Hmm.
it? Synapses and stuff like that being formed and
Hmm.
linking together and stuff like that, and understand how that process works. That's some intelligence going on, but it's all life related. Something is actually going on there because it's not on
Yeah.
autopilot
No,
necessarily.
Well,
no.
well,
It is so many variations in it between every person. That means it has to be something intelligent because otherwise it would just keep carbon copying every fucking time. You
Hmm.
know.
yeah. I
There has
mean,
to be some kind of criteria. Okay.
when I was in fifth grade, my health teacher, he explained it this way. He said that the central nervous system, right, from the dendrites or the nerve endings, send electrical impulses throughout the body,
Exactly.
ultimately
Hmm.
to the brain, right? And the
Hmm.
brain interacts with that in a way that the mind and the consciousness works with the mechanical how can I say workings of functions of the brain to tell
Hmm.
you if you're in pain, to tell
Hmm.
you if somebody's tickling you, all this type of stuff like that that has to do with your nervous system.
Hmm.
The central nervous system tells you what it feels like. The brain
Yeah,
draws from its experiences to draw what's the closest experience to that feeling, and your body
It
acts.
interprets it. Your brain
Yeah.
interprets all this stuff.
yeah,
And I'd say it
Yeah.
picks up some of it from what's passed down genetically from your mother and your father because they
true.
already have those experiences.
Hmm.
Yeah,
What is your
So
brain learning from? It's not learning from scratch, especially in the womb.
No, no.
so it
It's learning from
interprets.
something.
So the brain could potentially interpret from the central nervous system, and the body interprets from the brain. Then why don't we just create something that encompasses?
It goes both ways.
Okay, so it goes well back. Okay, but still though, my point is still being the same. Why don't we just create something that encompasses both the central nervous system and the brain?
That's what they're trying to do.
yeah.
Oh,
But it wouldn't be that though, would it?
No, because it's not human. It's not meant to be human.
Yeah,
it's not. Yeah, it's
yeah,
People
not. It wouldn't
people
be an
yeah.
actual
people
central
think
nervous system.
they're trying to recreate a human. They're not.
Mhm. No, no, no. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it still would be two different entities. That's all.
I just hope it don't
Hey,
end up like Terminator, where they're all whooping our asses.
Well, that's what people are
Well,
afraid of. I'm really
Well,
afraid of.
that's the human nature part of it. Like
Mm.
that's why
yeah.
they don't want to go as far as saying they want to recreate human beings. They want to make us better. That's the whole point of being a 2.0 and not a 1.0.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Because once you start creating humans a little bit better, you don't want them same human failings and falls that get
Mm-hmm.
us to fighting with each other and trying to dominate each other all the time. You don't want those, so you want to try to get those out of there to get the most out of human beings and maximize them, without having those downsides or all those psychological issues
yeah.
that end up screwing them up because you don't want them like Superman running amok. You don't want that.
Yeah. I
Oh,
would
Yeah, just
say
watching Justice.
I would go as far as to say that it's a rational premise towards world peace. Why would you want to
Mm-hmm.
improve the human being if you don't want it to be better?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
we've got three new panelists: AB, Rael, and then Kenshan.
Go
Or
ahead,
AB,
Ryan.
if you don't want to say anything, I'll pass it right to Rael.
go on ahead, brother.
Peace, Dr. Dunbar, panel in the chat. I wanted Gail and me to go in terms of what he's talking about as far as the consciousness, and it's something he touched on one of Roger's panels as he was talking about how even on a spiritual plane, the relationship in terms of like the coming together of people, like is even it has significance in terms of the the spiritual plane in terms of ancestors even being coming into conflict, and could he go more into that aspect in terms of the consciousness too?
Who's that? Who are you asking? Yeah,
Yeah,
Gil,
AB.
thank,
Okay.
Okay. For example, when it comes to the masculine and the feminine, for example, we say that the original Muntu is Maungu. Maungu means androgynous. It has the both polarities simultaneously. But as we decrease into the plane of incarnations from a lower plane, there's the state of duality becomes. And then we split from what was once one to become two. And the objective of the whole initiative process is to rebalance the totality. It's not just to rebalance it internally, but as a whole, because they were literally supposed to be one in one state. But in the form that we are currently, we split into. So we have to balance it within us, the masculine and the feminine. And then as we elevate in degrees of vibration, then we return to the higher plane. And if you go to the higher planes, they will say, and Professor Kwasi said the same thing. Professor Kwasi is the Grand Bokono of Benin. And if you read the text of Egyptians, they will say, Osiris is actually one and the same, but from two different sides, which is actually the proper states of humans. So when you do the weddings, the marriage, it is one of the ritual actually meant to balance men and women. They have to balance themselves internally, but they also have to balance themselves as a couple, which is part of the process that we do. And you mentioned in the chat that men was more as a emission of life, while women were receivers. In Kikongo, man is called Bakala. Bakala is the Ba. It's like in Egyptians, the soul that elevates itself to reach the great depths of knowledge and then brings it back to share with others.
Mhm.
Kento, and which is the primordial consciousness. K is receiving the energy. To is the earth. The same way that the Egyptians called To the earth. So the woman is in the very word. She is a receiver of the consciousness. The man elevates himself as the triangle of fire to reach, and then he brings back. Bakala becomes Kabbalah, tradition, and then we receive and bring it back. And then it brings back as a feminine form the triangle of water. And then the junction of those, the Merkaba, becomes the whole. There's a deeper science to it, but just to remain superficial, because you could pass your whole life learning about those subjects. The aim is balance, because you cannot reach the higher levels without proper balance. But I would like to speak.
And and can you go into that part about in terms of on the ancestor plane too?
Yes, when it comes to the people who are deceased, we say the dead are not dead. So even if, for example, your parents or your grandparents, they leave the quote unquote this world, this plane, they still are charged with them with a certain degree of emotions. They have memories, and they're supposed also to protect you in the new plane in which they live. But if they have still memories that there was a conflict in their quote unquote living period, and then you mix with someone who was in conflict with people, the energy will you would preserve the damages that would have gone 2 generations. Those in the other plane are going to remain in conflict, and they will affect those who are still in the quote unquote living world. In other words, if you want to join with someone, you have to go through a ceremony to resolve the conflicts. Being married is sufficient. You need to actually, through the process of marriage, of wedding, solve the conflict to receive the benediction from the one who came before you, so that they can protect you and protect your children, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I was reading this book called The Sacred Prostitute, and it talks about how the coming together, the marriage ceremony represents the goddess of love and the king coming together in a more spiritual context. It's not just a marriage ceremony. It was very important for kings to get married because the male heir was very important in terms of bringing a sense of calmness to the people to know that the kingdom was going to be able to keep flourishing and move forward. And so I wanted you to really touch on that in terms of the discussion when I was talking about consciousness, because I thought that was just very interesting when you touched upon that in terms of saying how even on the ancestral plane that it still can be war and conflict still waged based on what we do on the physical plane too. So I thought that was interesting when you talked about that. Appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, Gigami. Guys, we'll go for just a little bit longer. Kenshan, want to pass it to you?
Good evening, gentlemen. Hope everyone is doing well. I actually just got off from work. So number one, I appreciate this space and allowing us to continue to educate ourselves about, especially of what's going on around us. And I wasn't, number one, able to get Dr. Dunbar's email, so I would probably just get that, and then because I have some extensive research that I actually wanted to ask BGS and yourself, Dr. Dunbar, revolving around how COVID, SARS, coronavirus affects the gut and then the respiratory. So, if anyone else maybe have a question or something they want to, I would like to ask that question.
So I don't know what it does to the gut or what adverse effects it generates there. As you know, that the respiratory tract is understood to be the entryway for the virus, and there have been several documented adverse effects occurring in the respiratory tract. And I did watch a video yesterday. Somebody had a gentleman looking at data showing that I believe he had such a variant or respiratory tract.
Your voice is low now, Dr. Dunbar.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Now you're
we can hear
good.
you
Yeah.
now, but your microphone's kind of
Sitting
going
back
in
in
and
my
out.
chair a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just say that there are studies out there showing that the different variants spend different, or they're localizing in different parts of the respiratory tract.
Right.
So
What I've been able to find real quick is I did research on in terms of what happens when you are affected. Number one, I'm probably going to go a little technical. I am a holistic health coach. If anyone doesn't know, I'm Ken Sean. I am a student in epigenetics and pathology, and I'm also certified in neurotools, neuroscience, and ketogenesis. So I was able to broke down what a 3CL protease is. And the 3CL protease is basically amino acids made up to make a long protein, which is the infection or the COVID-19 starting to take place inside the gut. This creates an endopeptide. And what I was able to research and find over the past 6 months was that this protease, once cut, can actually be absorbed into the gut, which is a dangerous thing and causes a mutagenesis. So, how do we heal that, or how do we stay safe? First of all, the diet, but what it comes down to is most people will catch it, and so you need something now. And so this is where the inhibitor comes in, Dr. Dunbar. So the inhibitor is something that would stop the 3CL protease from being cut. And then once it's not cut, then it cannot enter your absorbable system, and it can't replicate into an endopeptide, and then you're safe. You can basically go through your protocol and just be safe. But then Other than that, you'd end up on ICU or have to deal with something like long COVID. So the 3CL protease is one of the researches I've been digging in, Dr. Dunbar and others. And
So you're proposing that this 3CA protease creates a peptide that goes into the gut and that gets absorbed into the gut, and that gives rise to at least some of the COVID-19 symptoms.
yes, replication. Right. So the 3CL protease is a long protein. So it needs to be, if it's cut, then it's replicated on the module scale. So on a module scale, then this cell is now duplicated, and it's rapidly duplicated throughout the gut, then the respiratory, then you're probably on ICU. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, I left my email address right there in the back chat. If you want to share with me what you have, I'll certainly take a look.
Definitely do that right now. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that's my first time hearing about that that pathway.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We know that everything's not discussed. Everything's not discussed. So I'd like to read some more about that. Artist, and also thank you for the Cash App.
No problem. My pleasure.
So guys, we're right at just almost at 3 hours. I think I'll probably transition to shutting this down unless anyone else wants to go in another direction. Are there any other questions or topics anyone wants to throw out there?
I just want to say, hey, thanks for letting me up, man. You and BGS gave me a lot to think about, man. That's why I said I'm learning from you two now. Teach me well. And let me tell you something. Y'all have taught me well because you got me thinking about a whole lot of different things. So appreciate you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Salud.
Eric. Anyone else?
I'll just say thanks for letting me up, Dr. Dunbar. It was an interesting conversation, so I actually came up just to calm Pookie down, but I actually got involved in what was going on a little bit more. So I appreciate your channel for being able to have these discussions. It did feel like the Coliseum 3.0 for a hot minute, so I do appreciate that. So
okay, thank you, Artisan.
Peace.
I just appreciate you having this conversation, Doc, and thanks for having me up.
All right. Thank you, AB.
So thank you again, Dr. Dunbar. I found it to be quite interesting conversation, especially with everything that relates to the sciences, and especially with Black people. And sometimes we can have, in the Western society, the great message is that sometimes Black people are away from the sciences. But if you go back in time, there's a famous quote by Dr. Chekanta Diop who says, in antiquity, the rest of the world perceived that the Black people were the one who were the most dwelling in the sciences, and that it actually caused envy of the others. And that's why they actually try to enter the mystery system to extract sciences to develop them themselves. So I think going back to the science field would be especially beneficial for our race worldwide, if you want to prosper in the fourth industrial revolution and further on. So, and if for those who would be interested in the mysteries, not that I'm a teacher in those, but dwelling in the STEM first and in psychology and philosophy would ease your transition into more subtle sciences. I found it that those who had those who want to enter the mysteries, having a background in the STEM, I found it to be highly beneficial. For example, my own grand teacher, he's a mathematician, an engineer, and also economist. The Grand Bokono of Benin, Professor Selinkwasi, is also informatician and mathematicians. And they always said that they explain the grand sciences through numbers and geometry. And then you begin to comprehend way more things when you have a certain basis in the STEMs, in psychology and philosophy. And you cannot enter No one enters the temples without geometry. You need it. Mathematics is at the basis of the grand mysteries. So thank you again, and may you have a good day and the rest of life. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Guillermo, could you answer my question for you in the back chat, please?
Wait a second.
Okay, I think that leaves Pookie, Rael, Kenshawn. Anyone?
We doing closing?
Yeah, I'm winding this down.
Okay. It's a very interesting conversation talking about clothing and stuff like that. And then, it's just a crazy environment how all this automation stuff's gonna get implemented while in the midst of COVID, and we got to figure out how to, make like society work again and like build a better banking structure while we do this. So it's just a very interesting topic in general. But that's it. That's all I had to say.
Well, thank you for coming to my platform, Pookie. I've seen you out a couple times. So, with BGS.
For sure. No problem. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right.
Well, I appreciate I just sent you an email. I'm actually sending you another one seconds from now. But hope to have NFL talk about how 21 players from the Browns won't be able to play Sunday.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think they've postponed 3 games.
Wow.
So the NFL, and I think they've mandated by I think December 20 something that all the players and coaches get booster shots. So
yeah, I've read that myself, Dr. Dunbar. They've canceled at least 3 whole games for sure.
Oh man.
That means
you're gonna.
Network,
they're doing the same thing in the NBA. There's like hella players in the protocol right now. It's weird.
Yeah, so keep your eyes on what's going on. I'm doing some traveling for the holidays, so keep your eyes on what's going on out there, guys.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So I guess it's the most healthiest will lift the Lombardi, eh? Literally.
It seems that way.
Yeah, that could impact it.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way.
So, Rael, did you want to say anything?
Thanks for having me up once again. I think this might be my second or third time on one of your panels. Peace to the panel and chat once again. When I started really studying really heavily, I realized how scientific our people were. And I saw some of the things that, we had engaged in historically. And I had this thing where I was saying how, I used to say it kind of joking way, science got us in this mess. Science is going to get us out of this mess. We're going to have to become much more of a scientific people. Even in the Egyptian history, even when it came down to mating, people police their bloodlines heavily because the wrong person can come into your bloodline and take your bloodline down a wrong path. There is a science to it, and we're biological beings, so we're walking science. So to be anti-science is really to be anti yourself and your own existence. So we need to be much more, from a collective standpoint, much more scientific. The notion that Black people being intelligent and being scientists and things like this and considered lame just has no place for any group of people if they expect to move forward. It is people like these who are going to be the ones to help.
I can't do it.
Propel group forward in a positive way. So we're going to have to be much more scientific, much more critical thinking skills for sure. You know, the scripture says, study and show thyself approved. We're going to have to study. We're going to have to truly study. And as a great Carter G. Woodson said, to paraphrase, the self-education is the best education. I found that to be true. I pretty much designed my own curriculum as an adult, starting in my 30s. And I just constantly add more and more so I can be approved. And that's really what it comes down to. Like, especially in the age of information and innovation, the not knowing is no excuse. You willfully have to not know in this age because the information is in abundance. And I'll leave it there.
I'll just say facts on that, Rael.
If I can just add quickly, you know, the melanin is something that has been studied, of course. If you buy Melanin by Dr. Liala Africa, he gives an extensive read on that actually. But melanin is
powerful brother right there.
Yes. Function, all right, balance, right. We cannot we are not the feelings that people have in the front of us, right? We are the people who are feeling them. Therefore, that's the melanin, meaning your subjective side is your gut, what you feel. The objective side is what I just talked about in terms of the enzyme in the gut and what the data is saying. So that's subjective.
Can you go into the fact that the gut is actually a thinking entity too?
Right.
Like the brain.
Exactly. I can come in, right. I can go to a family reunion and immediately my melanin is telling me I still have a problem with Uncle Jess. I still have a problem with Auntie Mike. And I'm just not gonna ever like them. This is the melanin saying you're either in displacement or you're in harmony. Some of us call it falling in love or whatever, but it's really harmony or displacement. So the melanin has its own function besides what English has taught us or French or Latin. There's just two functions. There's displacement and harmony, and of course, out of everything you want to be nature or nurture, and you're gonna have nature, and you're gonna have nurture. How are you balancing it, right? Um, you know, like once again, English made feminine. English made alpha, omega, and they made these things. It's either nature or nurture. And when you're dealing with your puppy or your child, you're dealing in nurture. That doesn't mean you're soft. It means you're balanced. And if you're not, then you're leaning with one side of your brain. So I think that's interesting.
Agreed. That is mostly what I do in my life is try to balance those two forces because I understand those two forces are in everybody, the masculine and feminine. Like you were pointing out, just because you nurture a child or an animal does not make you soft. Soft is an idea that came about in our 90s situation where you had so many men disappear from the home. People start trying to determine what masculine was, and that's where you get this hard and this soft stuff. You have to have both. In order to self-actualize, you have to have both. You have to understand how to nurture, at the same time understand how to hold a line and actually keep things accountable and keep things moving forward. You have to be able to do both. You can't drive a car on two wheels, sideways. You can't do it. You have to have all four wheels on the ground to make any kind of traction. So that's what I see it as. It's always balanced.
Yeah, you can't have nurture. You can't be a nurturing man and not be able to defend your family, which is where the masculine comes in and how you utilize it to your greatest advantage to defend
exactly
your family.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. there are, I'll be doing some more of these going forward. As Rael said, the knowledge of the stems, being trained in these fields, especially for our younger people, is important. That's one of the main reasons I started this channel. And it's fascinating that, according to history, a lot of these sciences start from out of Africa, and here in the United States, we're kind of lagging behind in these fields. So it's very, very interesting. So I will do more of these. There are a lot of highly intelligent and highly skilled people in the sphere, and I'm like to bring other people in to have discussions on my channel. So I'll probably, before the new year, I'll probably upload 1 or 2 more offerings. So look out for those. And thank you to everybody who sat and listened in. Thank you to BGS for coming. And thank you to BGS and Roger for sharing the stream. So please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't. Thank you to Artisan and Frederick Holiday for the Cash Apps. If you're watching this on the playback and you want to make a donation to the channel, I will leave that below. So everyone, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I'll be listening in to some of the other streams tonight. I'll probably see you elsewhere. You'll probably see me in the chat. So enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care. I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.
Dr. Dunbar, before you go,
go ahead.
Before you go, you and Nicole have a wealth of knowledge that much of Black America really needs to hear. Y'all might want to pursue something like doing a joint podcast together. I think that would be very interesting, seeing both of your perspectives, or having a show at least once a week or maybe once every 2 weeks. So we can see y'all in this scientific element, because when y'all do come together, it's very enjoyable, and I think it would really light a fire for many people in the space who do want an alternative conversation, as opposed to just a gender war type stuff. Something that y'all might want to visit with each other, just to give me an idea.
Well, thanks, Rael. I appreciate that. I will. She has a lot going on right now, but I'll tap her and let her know that you made that recommendation / request. So I certainly enjoy teaming up with Nicole whenever we can. So I'll let her know.
Mr. Dr. Dunbar, if I may say one more thing.
Sure.
Peace and salute to you. And all those in unity are right. All those in disunity are wrong. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
All right. And for those, I know that I create content talking about stuff like malaria, immunizations, transcription, translation, Western blot analyses. Some of it might sound like gibberish if you don't have a handle on what those concepts are, but just having a sense of curiosity is important, and just having knowledge of some of these things are important when the higher level discussions are taking place in the in current events and in the mainstream media. So just, yeah, if it never hurts to take a look and click on a video and to listen to what the person is talking about. Part of science is presentation and making it digestible for the general public. And anytime I create content here, I try to do that. So anyhow, everyone, enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and I will talk to you the next time. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Bye-bye.